Celebration. Just to give you a brief about RSSDI, the so-called RSSDI, which means Research Society for the Study of Diabetes in India, RSSDI was founded in this very institute, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, 50 years back under the guidance of Professor M.M.S. Ahuja. And there were only 10 members to begin with in this society. And we are honored and pleased to have two of the founder members here with us, Professor Vinod Kumar and Dr. D.K. Hazra, who are present to grace this occasion with us. So RSSDI was founded with the aim to promote research and education in the field of diabetes. The diabetes as an area of work or as a disease area was very, very new 50 years back. And there was very limited work being done in India. So the goal of setting up this society was to promote research, to find out our own entry cases in Indian population and develop data so that we can do better with diabetes care in India. And with this goal, the society started working 50 years back with a small membership of only 10 members. I am pleased to tell you that today society has reached far and wide across India, and we have more than 9,500 members across India, and we have presence at the level of all the districts and even some of the talukas across the country where RSSDA work is being done. Not only we are working on the promotion of research, we are also working on development of educational modules for physicians as well as public education. We are also involved in setting up clinical practice recommendations for the country for management of diabetes so that we can provide standardized care to our patients across India. And I am also pleased to announce that we have today with us the chairperson and secretaries of 23 state chapters and total 28 state and union territory chapters, and the secretaries also. And in addition, we have now a big online presence with educational modules for both patients, public, as well as healthcare providers. Even we are working on the development of support systems. We have educational programs for educators, nurse practitioners. So overall, we are working in a very holistic manner to improve diabetes care in India in all respects, whatever we can do and wherever we can reach. So with this small background, I would like to invite our president, RSSDI, Dr. Vasant Kumar. Dr. Vasant Kumar is a leading diabetologist in the city of Hyderabad at Apollo Hospital. I would request him to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning, respected ladies and gentlemen. Our President-elect, Dr. Makkad, has already given us the brief account of our esteemed organization and how it was started in the very institute. It's our great privilege that we could be a part of these wonderful celebrations of 50 years during the 75th years of our national independence. And as I'm not going to repeat whatever Dr. Makkad said, because I understand your time is very valuable. I'm so glad that some of the very important people in the area of healthcare, in the area of administration are with us here. So I would specially welcome Dr. Balram Bhargav and Dr. V.K. Pal, both from Niti Aayog, and Dr. Randeep Guleria, who is the director of All India Institute of Medical Sciences. We also have Dr. Andrew Bolton, who is the current president of International Diabetes Federation. You know, that's the largest organization worldwide working for diabetes all over the world. And we have our patrons, past presidents, founders, and of course from different states, our own members of the executive committee, all of us are here. So it's a warm welcome from my side as the president of the organization. And I know we are actually a few of us here, but it is apart from the celebrations that we are going to have, it is also going to be a learning experience to all of us, particularly to me, because we have some very important dignitaries who are here. I just want to say that Research Society for Study of Diabetes, which has started as a research organization, now we have looked beyond research. While continuing to do that, we have really got involved in the public awareness programs during the COVID and after COVID. I know many of you are here, right in the center, and how you have worked during the COVID time, how we have actually brought the nation out of this disaster. But we are with us, so I only take the opportunity to just say a few words because we have two important luminaries from Niti Aayog. So Research Society of this Diabetes is now the largest organization of professionals involved in diabetes care. We are ready to work with any organization, also with the government, and to see what best it can be done in various aspects of diabetes, whether it's we are talking about preventing diabetes, when we are managing, providing affordable care, whether we are talking about diabetes, which has become hugely prevalent amongst the poor urban, unfortunately. I think it is one thing the government should be perhaps more involved in this, because it's going to be just not an epidemic, the epidemic that affects the poor people. So we don't know what's going to happen in the next decade. So we need to do something really well. I know the government has all the arms with it, but government alone will not be sufficient to do this. We know we are not spending enough for the healthcare. We need to do that. But this is not the right time for me to say all that. But I'm only requesting our guests that please look at us, that we are always ready and obliged to do what best we can do to serve this nation, at least in the area of prevention, creating awareness, managing diabetes at every level. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'm looking forward to hear from all of you and learn and take this to rest of our members. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for those kind words. Now I would request Professor Dr. Nikhil Tandon, whom I'm sure we all know. He is professor and head of endocrinology at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and he has been the key person for coordinating this program, Golden Jubilee celebration that we are hosting today. And he's also a long-standing member of Rssdi and actively involved in the field of diabetes and diabetes research. To again, say a brief welcome note, so Dr. Tandon.
Thank you, Dr. Makkar. Very good morning to everybody, and a warm welcome on behalf of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. I'm sure the director will, of course, give the official welcome on behalf of the institution, but as a representative of the institution from my side and from the Department of Endocrinology to sort of a very distinguished medical leadership of the country. And then we have Member Health Niti Aayog, we have Dr. Balram Bhargav, who had a very successful 4-year stint as the Director General of the ICMR and Secretary DHR, and Dr. Randeep Guleria, who's been leading this institution in incredible fashion for the last 5 years. And this galaxy of diabetes specialists who have committed their professional career to provide care for people with diabetes. It is actually an auspicious time in our history, and it's 3 events which actually come together. Obviously, the most important event being the 75th anniversary of India's independence, which coincides with the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the Research Society for the Study of Diabetes in India. And let me squeeze in my department out here. And this is the 40th year of the establishment of the Department of Endocrinology and Diabetes at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. And that really brings me to the reason why this function is being organized at AIIMS, and why I've been given the privilege of welcoming you out here. And this really all leads to the story of one man, and that is Professor M.M.S. Ahuja, who founded the RSSDI, along with many of the stalwarts in this room, and someone who spent his entire career as an academic clinician at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. So he joined as an assistant professor and continued till he became professor and head of medicine, then endocrinology, and was also the dean of the institution when he superannuated. There are two sort of interesting migratory events in Dr. Ahuja's existence, and I think those are important for us to understand. One was a migration which was necessitated at the time of India's independence. And that was because of the partition of the subcontinent, which compelled Dr. Ahuja to leave the comfort of his usual place of stay. He was a medical student in Lahore, and he had to migrate to a place which was geographically, linguistically, and culturally very, very different from where he belonged. He went to Chennai, to Madras Medical College, and that was, I'm sure it was a massive, massive move, and must have been a huge disruption. But it speaks to the quality of the man that he took that in his stride and continued onwards. Now, well, this migration was forced, right? The next one was volitional and actually unprecedented. Dr. Ahuja, as I mentioned, occupied the chair of medicine in this particular institution, right? And that time he decided to devote the last decade of his academic career in establishing, fostering, and nurturing the Department of Endocrinology at AIIMS. Now, if you go to the history of medical schools, how are new departments really established? Invariably, it is mid-level faculty who want to develop a new specialty and feel that evolution of that specialty will require, a more committed, focused, and exclusive space. And they then branch out from their parent department. It was not the case with Dr. Ahuja. He relinquished what I call the keys to the kingdom. Department of Medicine is one of the largest and most important departments in any medical school. He relinquished that to set up what was then a very, very, and actually still remains a fairly small subspecialty department, which is the Department of Endocrinology and Diabetes. But again, going back to what this institution was created and what Dr. Ahuja, and we're fortunate as his followers to have achieved, is the institution, when it was established, was supposed to be a provider of postgraduate medical education for the country, so that postgraduates here could then see different parts of the country. Because at the time of independence, you will realize that a lot of people were compelled to travel abroad for their MRCPs, FRCSs, because the opportunities for postgraduate training were few and far between. It is with actually great pleasure, humility, but a sense of achievement that I share this information with you, that in the 40 years since Professor Ahuja established the Department of Endocrinology, trainees from this department who have got DM in endocrinology today populate 22 states and union territories. So the footprint is not, we have not only trained, we have not kept them with us. We've allowed them to go and populate different parts of the country, establish their own departments, and a downstream effect. So it is, I feel, a very important testimony to the vision of Professor Ahuja. Several of you would know him in person, and he was an absolutely astute clinician. He was fairly stern for those of whom who interacted with him, but a fair person. And above all, he was really adored by his patients. When he retired from here and moved to a private sector organization, I think it was like, the whole horde of patients went with him. They wanted him. He was an incredible clinician. But also in the context of what the RSSDI stood for, and today, he did incredible work. It was clinical research predominantly, but incredible work in which he generated data on the transitional epidemiology of diabetes in India, diabetes of the young, immunology of type 1 diabetes, studies in migrant Indians. I see Dr. P.V. Rao sitting, who was his able PhD student and went all over the world, dispatched to the West Indies and Malaysia and Fiji and Mauritius and Africa to do that work. And of course, the since deceased MRDM, a contentious issue, but Dr. Ahuja contributed significantly to that. And we as a department have fortunately been able to carry on. We've attempted to continue his legacy by building on the Diabetes of Young Clinic, by establishing and running the registry for type 2 youth onset diabetes with more than 22,000 young diabetics in our care. And of course, establishing strategies for improving quality of care. So in his memory and in our own capacity as his legatees, it's a matter of great privilege that I stand here to welcome all of you with the deepest of humility of behalf of AIIMS as an institution and the Department of Endocrinology in particular. And it is, I'm incredibly grateful to the Rssdi for having, thought, and the leadership of the Rssdi for having thought of hosting this event at the All India Institute to recognize the contribution of a giant in clinical medicine, and of course the institution as a whole. And I'm really honored by this gesture from the Rssdi and the recent remarkable work which the organization has done in terms of branching into specific areas of research and education. And we will hear a bit more about that as we go ahead. With that, I would like to once again welcome all of you and look forward to a good morning of confabulation. Jai Hind and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nikhil Tandon, for those very informative remarks about Dr. Ahuja. I'm sure quite a few knew about this, but a lot of people, we don't know much about the details in the background of this whole story. So with this, we move on to another important session now. We'll have two important keynote addresses, one from Dr. Balram Bhargav and one from Dr. Paul. But before that, I would request Dr. Vasant Kumar, Dr. Bansi, and Dr. Sanjay to please come to the dais, and we can have lamp lighting. And to join, we can also have, sir, I would like to invite Dr. Guleria, Dr. Bhargav, Dr. Paul, Dr. Vinod Kumar, Dr. Hazra, Dr. Mohan sir, and Dr. Das sir. Andrew? Oh, Dr. Andrew is already there. Dr. Shashank, please come to the dais, please. So with this, we move on to the keynote addresses. To chair this very important session, I would request, sir, yeah, Dr. Guleria first. We all know Professor Guleria. We have been watching him during the COVID times. He spearheaded the fight against COVID in India and made a remarkable contribution to fight COVID and bring it to levels where we are. So we should have a good round of applause for Dr. Guleria here. So just to briefly introduce him, Dr. Guleria started his career at All India Institute way back in 1992, what I am informed, as assistant professor, and now he is currently the director of All India Institute of Medical Sciences and also head of Department of Pulmonary Medicine. He is a highly decorated man with multiple awards added to his crown. Namely, he is also awarded with the BC Roy Award and also Padma Shri uh, to the list. And he enjoys advisory roles to many ACE organizations globally, including WHO. With that brief note, Professor Guleria, sir, welcome. And to join him to chair this session, Professor A.K. Das. He does not need any introduction in the RSSDI platforms. He is one of our patrons, guide, and philosopher for the RSSDI. He inspires all of us to keep doing more in the field of diabetes. Professor Das, sir. And I would request Dr. Anuj Maheshwari. Anuj is there to please come and present a bouquet to Professor Guleria. And then I would request Dr. Vijay Viswanathan, please come and present a bouquet to Dr. Das. Dr. Anuj is Vice President of RSSDI and Dr. Vijay Viswanathan is also Vice President of RSSDI. So please. So with this, I hand over the session to chairs to introduce first Dr. Paul and start with the proceedings.
Good morning. At the onset, let me take this opportunity to welcome you all to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Nikhil has already welcomed you all, but let me formally also do that and to say that it's really an honor to have such luminaries here for the Golden Jubilee celebration of the RSSDI. It's really a proud moment for the Institute because this is where this organization started with Professor M.M.S. Ahuja having this idea of the importance of doing research in diabetes way back in the 70s and spearheading this research movement. Nikhil has already told you a lot about Professor Ahuja. I've also known him since a child because he used to be our neighbor when I was at the campus. And the other thing that I remember, besides him being stern, was that he was a very avid golfer. And every Sunday he would go out to play golf early in the morning, and I would see him coming with all his golf sticks, and he loved playing golf. But a great clinician, and I think he was a visionary in many ways because he really understood the need for developing endocrinology and diabetes in our country and moved from being the head of the Department of Medicine to starting up the Department of Endocrinology. So it's his vision that sees all of you here today. And on behalf of the Institute, a very, very warm welcome. We'll start with today's first session. And it's my honor to really have welcome the first speaker, Professor V.K. Paul, again an AIIMSonian who has studied through and through at AIIMS and been a part of AIIMS faculty also. And now, of course, is playing a stellar role as far as Niti Aayog is concerned. And we've seen the brilliant work that he's been doing both in terms of the Poshan Abhiyan and as far as COVID was concerned. Professor Paul will be talking today on policy framework for NCD prevention, bringing diabetes to center stage. So I request Dr. Paul to give his talk.
Good morning. Namaste. Respected Dr. Guleria, respected Dr. Das, my teacher, Professor Vinod Kumarji, distinguished leadership of diabetes in our nation, Nikhil, colleagues. I am very honored to be here. Golden Jubilee celebration of any organization is a remarkable achievement for the society and for the country. And that too for a discipline which is so critically important in the present times ever more is truly special. I'm also very, very honored to be here because today's event is especially in the memory of my teacher, late Professor MMS Ahuja Sahab. A wonderful teacher. He loved students. He was at times pithy, nasty, but a lovable person. We admire him as a well-wisher of students, well-wishers of teaching, and a person whom we adored as being a mentor and a person on whom you could trust as a child could trust his or her parents. Golden Jubilee celebrations bring forth to me another Golden Jubilee, which is the Golden Jubilee of my batch. I entered the portals of this institute on the 1st of August, 1972. So it's again a special one to the list that Nikhil, the three lists that you, 3 points that you made. I have a fourth one to add, and therefore this day is again very, very special. You can see how in the earliest phase of the institute, such ideas were coming together. And you start an organization with 10 people with wonderful student office, such as Dr. Vinod Kumar, and you set up a journey in the service of the nation that goes far and wide. I'm impressed by the portfolio of research, by education, patient awareness, and the policy input that you have provided as an organization. So let me have a conversation with you briefly on the issues that confront us in the policy space. You have a responsibility toward them, but you are not the only one who have responsibility toward them. But let me share how we view the challenges faced by this multi-system disorder on the population of India, the onslaught on the population of India now and in times to come, and how to chart pathways for responding to them in an effective way. Firstly, let's start with the problem. You'll hear over and over again about the size of the problem. It is a cliche to say India is the capital of diabetes. But it is true that yes, we are emerging as the epicenter, have emerged as an epicenter of this deadly disease. Therefore, our response has to also be of a colossal size. A colossal challenge has to be met with a massive response. And let's take stock and say where we are at this point in time. We know from the latest NFHS 5 data, which is 2019-20, just to get these figures right because you'll hear them the whole day. Among females 15 years and above, high or very high sugar, which means fasting blood sugar, I should say, to be correct, 141 to 160 and more than 160 put together is 13.5%. 13.5%, 1 out of 6. Males, it rises to 15.6. Urban, a shade higher, females 16.5, men 18%, 17.9%. 1 out of 6 Indians have diabetes. Now, this must be a very common disease, obviously. Let me tell you, by the way, the commonest disease in India is anemia. More than 50% women, more than 60% pregnant women, half of adults, 1/4 of children, male adolescents, and half of children. So that is the commonest one. But to have diabetes in 1 out of 6 individuals today and rising, and the risk factors of this are rising, is something that must be the starting point for our discourse. And then when you take a public health paradigm and you ask a question, can I prevent it? Can I do primary prevention? And I want you to think about it. Can there still be a primary prevention? Or is it going to be a relentless journey toward rising incidence at some point, perhaps half of India, God forbid? So as a researcher, can we still have a primary prevention? What are those pathways? Some pathways are easier said than done. Is there still hope in modern science for primary prevention? Then the question arises, can I make a contribution to secondary prevention? Which means the disease has occurred. Can it be minimized in terms of its effects and its complications? And that is a space on which Indian policy, health policy, and programs have made a significant progress. And let me come from that side first. Under the Ayushman Bharat Health and Wellness Centers, we have a clear paradigm of using these centers for screening of diseases, cancer, hypertension, and of course, diabetes. In fact, the journey for starting screening for diabetes started much earlier as a part of the National Program for Prevention and Control of Cancer, Diabetes, CVD, and Stroke, the NPCDCS program, which has been there now for more than a decade. So a beginning has been made way back in a sense, but the problem has been rising. So obviously much more needs to be done. And that brings back to the prevention. But in terms of secondary prevention, today's site is the comprehensive primary healthcare node by the name of Ayushman Bharat Health and Wellness Center. This nation is committed to create and make functional 150,000, 1.5 lakh such centers by the end of the year. And I'd like to inform you that we are on track. We are close to about 1.25 lakh such centers being ready. Maybe well known to you, but I assure you that the work on screening that started with this program, the NPCDCS, has truly been accelerated with this new platform having been created. Through this, the screening happens, and in those health and wellness centers, which are located at primary health centers, out of these, the treatment is provided. And the list of drugs that's available at the PHC, a standard list, out of 172 drugs at the PHC, metformin and insulin soluble, as well as the mixture. Insulin is available, and therefore a beginning has been made in a big way, making sure that these drugs are available as part of the inventory at the PHC, free of cost, and a screening that takes place in sub-center health and wellness centers. Through a teleconsultation, a process of providing treatment to the attendant population of the geography covered by these centers has been instituted. And I like you to believe that this is happening. I like you to believe that this is accelerating. I like you to believe that you can help in that regard. And I'll come to that in a minute. Here is the opportunity, therefore, to join hands to use the comprehensive primary healthcare paradigm under Ayushman Bharat for us to contribute. Because that's the way, that's the only way. Health and wellness centers are going to come up in urban health centers as well, already started. Impetus further given by the grants of the 15th Finance Commission, special grants, and as a part of Ayushman Bharat Infrastructure Mission, the PM AIIMS program. So there is an impetus to create a platform which should be used for several priorities, but highest among them must be diabetes. And I want you to think about how to make it a grand success that no one with diabetes is left out of the system. I'm also worried on another account, and let us put that in the paradigm. And that is the status of children and adolescents with regard to the emerging situation. A very well-conducted survey called CNNS survey demonstrates that 10% of children, 10% of children and adolescents of our country, 10%, 1 out of 10 are pre-diabetic. Can they be prevented from crossing the line? This is an emerging program paradigm that I like you to think about. ये अभी हुआ नहीं है. स्क्रीनिंग का आप सब ने रास्ता दिखाया, उस प्रोग्राम में आए, उसको एक्सेलरेशन मिल रहा है, इन्वेस्टमेंट हो रही हैं, दवाइयां मिल रही हैं. उसके ऊपर आते हैं कि अच्छी तरह से कैसे देंगे, that is another part. But then here is another challenge, that those who are tomorrow's adults, 1 out of 10 of them are vulnerable. How do we reach? Where do we reach? What are the interventions that we can work with? Do they work, or are they imagination? What is it that we can tell school children? Most of these children are in schools. Should school be the hub for this disease prevention and prevention of other diseases? We like to hear from you. And what is it that we will do there? What is it that can be done there? What is it that is liable to change? Is it all just intent? Is there a package of intervention which, and that's a research question, by the way, is there a package of intervention when delivered systematically, let's say through school, can change the course of this pre-diabetic state to not move in the direction of diabetes? Do we know that? Who will answer this question? Or is it only aspirational? हाँ, physical activity करो, burger कम खाओ, दुकान दूर कर दो, cigarette मत. वो एक चीज है. That's the kind of thing that you do sitting down around a table. But can this be evidence-based? How much change is possible through a school program? So that's the question I ask. I like you to address this. I like you to think about it. Nikhil knows that I keep challenging the community of NCD, and Dr. Bhargav also is here. He knows this, something I've spoken. You see, when child health and communicable diseases, solutions were being found. This is a very important part for this gathering. We were asked, as part of that community, and my seniors and colleagues were asked, demonstrate it works. So we will be asked to show that ORS works on scale and reduces mortality. Of course, it was an acute disease, I know. You could demonstrate. Only then would this come into public health space. Vaccines are being tested. Before a vaccine came into use, you demonstrated that it does certain job. In diphtheria at some point, and in today's time, COVID. I am coming from that background, accept my submission here that I don't see that level of rigor when I get to see the data on NCD related interventions and their impact. Even the processes, the change in processes or intermediate pathways is often soft. Only now we are getting some insights from the study of AIIMS that you recently made available, that yes, at population level, hypertension control can happen. I have not seen that in diabetes on scale, in the hands of the system, not in the hands of a research team. So please contribute toward evidence generation of that nature. Again, let's go back. Can diabetes be prevented? Primary prevention in, let's say, in school-going children. Can it be prevented on scale by whatever interventions we know work, yoga, food change, whatever? And then if not, secondary prevention, that when you follow the protocol that you tell us to follow, at the population level, there are more individuals with glycemic control than they were without it. I don't think we have still demonstrated this. Show us whether the approach that we have taken for Health and Wellness Center driven NPC, DCCS leads to change at the population level. Individual level, you all are making a difference to our lives. At population level, I'm not sure. We think it works. Perhaps it does. Most likely it does. How much? 1/4? How many need second line therapy? How many have hypoglycemic events? How do we ensure lifelong compliance? These questions, by the way, have been answered for tuberculosis. We need to answer them for the disease at hand. So the dimension of research that this journey started by Dr. Ahuja is still not, by the way, not over. In fact, it's more formidable because these are tougher questions than classifying, say, disease pattern of diabetes in a nation. So I'm requesting you to kindly, therefore, contribute toward finding answers to this range of questions and many others that are ready. How can technology help? I know very good work done in Punjab by Dr. Nikhil's team. I'm a facilitator for that, and I'm honored to be a part of that extended team. But so much more needs to be done. Technology perhaps can make several things possible. We have Ayushman Bharat health account, Aadhaar, being generated for the entire population in a matter of time. How can that be helpful in tracking individuals? How can technology will surely help us in deepening our reach. So the questions that I've asked so far are: one, can there be primary prevention? And what is the pathway? And particularly for the vulnerable children and adolescents, which is the way we go? Schools, out of school. What is the package that you offer? Is that package evidence driven? If not, would you test evidence? Can we demonstrate change? The second side, in summary, that I have suggested to you is to ask the question of the approach that has been taken so far, how can that be made as optimum as it can be, say, in terms of compliance? And how can that approach be taken to a stage that it does make a difference? If it doesn't, how do we refine that approach? These are the two questions essentially that I have posed to you. I now come to, very briefly toward the end, on a couple of other issues that I like you to keep in mind since I'm talking to the leadership of diabetes in our nation. Firstly, as has been implied, diabetes is not going to be treated by endocrinologists or the diabetologists only in our nation. Forget it. Newborn care cannot be given by neonatologists like me. Forget it. Therefore, task shifting. Therefore, training of a general doctor. Then how much effort are we doing to do so? Does that person whom I refer to, the primary healthcare doctor, who will be treating from one drug and then second drug, does he have that competence? I'd like you to systematically address this issue, because you only can give that solution. Do you need change in the curriculum of MBBS? Do you need bridge courses? Do you need special courses? What is the level of confidence of that doctor whom we are reposing so much faith in? Are the modules that we are using optimum? Are they enough? Do they give confidence? I have learned that, and I quote this, that if I have to have confidence for treating diabetes, I must follow up at least 40 patients of diabetes over a period of time. I was made to do 20 deliveries, and I know still I was not confident of conducting deliveries, though we did. How much experience is needed? How can that experience be ensured that it reaches? I want you to seriously focus on this issue. I have seen this happening in newborn, and we were lucky that we created a consensus to push newborn care down rather than up to the doctors, to general pediatrician, to general doctor, and to nurse, and to ASHA in a graded way. Please, if I'm sure you are doing it, but do more of this if you can, please, because it cannot be left to only the specialists and super specialists. That's not the way forward. That's a wrong model. You provide leadership, standards. कैपेसिटी, SOPs. So उसके लिए कितना काम हो रहा है, हर जिले में कितने लोग हैं जो ट्रीट करेंगे. And then there is a specific suggestion. You have presence in most states. Can you have presence or extended partnership at the district level as your mission in the next 2 years? 500 जिलों में क्या presence ला सकते हैं, तभी ये बात हो पाएगी वहाँ पे. Patient awareness, making interface with the district health system to ensure that diabetes treatment is by standard, and you're helping that process, and there is a quality assurance, and you are asking tough questions. Is the diabetes controlled or not? It's not about detection. It's about control. That in the population, there are more individuals with controlled blood sugar, glycemic situation than they were beforehand. Therefore, consider extending this to the districts and to therefore engage more people out there. But then there are other ways of engaging in, especially, let's say, using the technology. I like also to consider if there are any answers for through therapies that emanate from our traditional system of medicine. Are there any therapies? I keep hearing, you keep hearing. If there is one or two ideas to pursue, the molecules to pursue, or formulations to pursue, can we sort that out in the next 10 years, one way or the other? Otherwise, I think A, we could be missing an opportunity, and B, we are part of continuing confusion, to say the least. And I think if we could have an answer, even a part answer, it will be very useful for obvious reasons. I like you to consider, of course, direct patient awareness, that you're doing very well, but vernacular languages must be an important part, because what you would say would be accepted and respected by lots of people. And last but not the least, being a pediatrician, I request you to focus also on type 1 diabetes. I know you're doing it. Your brochures tell me that you're doing it, but that's a different ball game. Please create capacity for us to do better in that space. Please support your junior simple pediatrician friends. दबाव नहीं उनको साथ लेके टाइप 1 में पार्टनर बनाइए, उसके भी आगे जाना है, तो उस एस्पेक्ट में भी आप प्लीज मदद करिए, ये मेरी हम्बल रिक्वेस्ट होगी. Thank you once again for the opportunity and for patient hearing. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much for this epoch-making talk and talking about the framework of NCD prevention, diabetes at center stage. Sir, I have no time or the audacity of summarizing it. I'll just say a single sentence that your message of diabetes being the prime mover through the fetal origin of adult disease, hyperglycemia, hypertension, CVD, and whatever NCDs, and the importance of diabetes control at every stage, the primary and secondary emphasized. You also spoke about tackling down the efforts of the evidence and the results of the research from the highest level to the level of the ASHA. Sir, it has been a great talk, and we'll carry it out. We have 630 district centers, sir, and I have no time, sir, but we'll discuss with you that you have given a direction which is great, and we'll follow it.
If you have that much of presence,
Yes, sir.
next 2 साल में आप डिस्ट्रिक्ट डायबिटीज पार्टनरशिप को डेवलप कर दीजिए, मॉडल बना दीजिए, इसको पार्टनरशिप कहिए, उसमें सिविल सोसाइटी भी आएगी, डॉक्टर भी आएंगे,
Yes, sir.
नर्सेज भी आएंगे, टीचर्स भी आएंगे, एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. तो ये आप डायबिटीज पार्टनरशिप का, डिस्ट्रिक्ट डायबिटीज पार्टनरशिप्स की मूवमेंट शुरू करिए, फिर आगे जाएगी ये बातें, और वहाँ पे CMO, वहाँ के डॉक्टर्स ऑफ कोर्स लीड करेंगे, आप जैसे करोगे, लेकिन सिविल सोसाइटी, डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन और DC को रोल दे दीजिए, क्योंकि वो सारी चीजें इकट्ठा करता है. थैंक यू सो मच.
Our president is here.
Sorry for this intervention.
Thank you, Dr. Das. Dr. Pal, thank you so much, sir, for inspiring us and also asking so many relevant questions to us. We go with you. But fortunately, we have answers to most of the questions that you asked. We also have solutions to a great extent. I understand your concerns personally as a pediatrician dealing with type 1 diabetes, which we all also have been doing. We fully agree with you that it is the primary care that in India, diabetes has to be managed. That is the situation now we have. We really want to work in that area, see how we can properly train our primary care doctors, even our employed by the government or even the public health nurses or others who can actually take care of our diabetes. I understand you are concerned about the prevention right from the childhood, the government schools and other things.
Yes.
You can really count on us. We can do something with the government and see. We are very keen, anxious and committed to most of the questions that you posed. So your talk made me to come up and just to respond to you. Thank you.
Great, great, sir.
Welcome to Niti Bhavan. Come.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dear friends, may I invite Professor Balram Bhargav to kindly come to the dais, and to save time, I must tell you that we are going to listen to a person who is fabulous. Dear friends, Professor Balram Bhargav is the immediate past Director General of ICMR. Currently, he is the professor and head of cardiology and head of the neurology and the cardiac center at the AIIMS. Sir, welcome you back in this new role. And dear friends, I'll make a long story short. He's going to speak to us the diabetes research in India, the journey ahead. I must mention one sentence, that your contribution, sir, has made a dent in diabetes research in the country. Be it ICMR in DAB study, be it in the diabetes in the young study, which Nikhil alluded to, be it in the genomic study of diabetes, establishing a center of excellence in Chennai, be it the various studies you gave it to the Bangalore Center, the National Diabetes Model Survey, sir. It has made great difference. I went to Agartala, Raichur, and Bombay. It has made to the centers great change. Be it the NAFEL study in diabetes, I have no time to describe, sir. Your contribution has been written in golden letters, and we seek your blessings and your goodwill for all time to come. Over to Professor Balram Bhargav.
Thank you so much for
Please
your
welcome with a big round of applause.
Thank you so much for your very kind words, Professor Paul, Professor Guleria, Professor Das, the two members who started 50 years back, Professor Vinod Kumar, Professor Hazra, Professor Mohan, Nikhil, my dear friend, and our guest, Professor Bolton, and the dignitaries and illuminaries who are present here represent the diabetes community of the country and who have led the diabetes research in this country over the last 50 years and have contributed immensely. So I would not give a keynote talk. I'll give some general talks as we celebrate 75 years of our independence. We celebrate 50 years of this brilliant organization set up by Professor Ahuja. Dr. Paul challenged all of you. I will congratulate all of you. And I will start with that, that in the last, if we look back in the last 75 years of our independence, what have we achieved? And tomorrow is 75 years of our independence. Everyone will talk about, we have done well in IT, we have done well in mobile, we have done well in cricket, we have done well in Bollywood. What people don't glamorize is that we have become self-sufficient in food security, the green revolution, the white revolution. We have seen the Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan movement, and then we became self-sufficient in space, in nuclear. We had the Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jai Vigyan movement when we launched 104 satellites. We became the 5th or 6th nuclear power in the world. So we do not glorify that. We glorify IT, mobile, cricket, Bollywood, now probably badminton, and also space. We need to glorify space, nuclear, our armed forces who have kept our country together over the last 75 years. And we clearly have remained a nation which has progressed. More importantly, what we don't glorify, and that is why I want to glorify and congratulate you, what we don't glorify is our healthcare. It is because what have we achieved in healthcare in the last 75 years? Human resources. Nikhil talked about MRCP and FRCS, and people had to go for postgraduate medical education. We have created human resources. 1 out of 5 or 6 doctors in the world is of Indian origin. 1 out of 4 nurses in the world are of Indian origin. We have created healthcare human resources for the world. We need to pat ourselves on the back for that. We have created the generics which are supplying to the world. 60% of the generics in the world, in the US, are of Indian origin. How much does the cost of insulin? It costs about $1,000 in the United States, and they want to bring it down to $35. And that is the declaration made by the current president in the United States to bring down the cost of insulin vial from $1,000 treatment to $35. It costs less than 150 rupees, $2 in India. We have led. We need to congratulate India for that. We don't do that. We don't glorify that. We glorify IT mobile. We need to glorify healthcare, how we have achieved in human resources, in generic drugs, vaccines. 60% of the childhood vaccines are of Indian origin. And we have seen how we demonstrated Indian vaccines during the COVID period. So we have been exporting Indian vaccines to more than 100 countries for COVID. We need to glorify that. Digital health, another huge area which has been now being developed. Telemedicine, how with the help of Dr. Guleria and other people, we fought the COVID across the country by telemedicine. And I think that is where we have again demonstrated to the world that we can have demonstrated to the world how healthcare has been led in this country in the last 75 years, and how we have become what we call Atmanirbhar, or self-sufficient in healthcare. So going away from IT mobile to healthcare, where we provided human resources, nursing, the generic drugs, the pharmacy, the vaccines, digital health, and the most important is health tourism. We are number 2 in the world in health tourism. And the current government has invoked Heal in India and Heal by India, which is going to be a game changer as far as we are concerned in healthcare for the future 25 years after independence. I mean, in the next 25 years, as we celebrate 100 years of independence, we would probably be the world leaders in healthcare. And health is becoming one of the major agendas of the government at the moment to lead and show the world that our doctors, our nurses, our paramedics, our healthcare workers have contributed immensely. And coming to this society and the role of this institution, Nikhil mentioned how endocrinologists have been leading in 22 states. I would just like to add that it is the blood, sweat, and tears of a generation of teachers of this institute and other medical institutions in the country who have made India self-sufficient in postgraduate medical education in a big way. And that is why we have been able to become self-sufficient in healthcare, and now providing training for people. We were providing some foreign students in the past, but that has now again been invoked by the government to get international students for medical education in India. And we have to go away from China and Ukraine and get back to our, and you know, the number of post undergraduates has really reached 100,000. Yes, it has gone at a very rapid speed. We have to maintain the quality of those undergraduates. Postgraduate seats are also going up to 50 to 60,000 per year, compared to 280,000 in China. Undergraduates are 280,000 per year in China. Yes, we do not want to pursue that model where they've just mixed up all the healthcare systems in a big way. I do not know whether they have made some huge progress as far as primary care and secondary care is concerned. But as far as India is concerned, I think we are in the right direction, but we need to put little brakes on trying to get more than 100,000 undergraduates without building resources along with that. So that is an important aspect, and also maintain the quality. And Dr. Paul has challenged you for a lot of research to be done for taking the civil society, taking the communities at large, bringing down of care from super specialties down to the primary care. I think that is absolutely a huge challenge, and I think much of it is happening, as was mentioned by you, sir, regarding the fact that much of the questions have been answered and are being answered. But what I would like to stress on is that as my role in the Indian Council of Medical Research in the past 4.5 years, we were able to realize that ICMR did work as a glue to keep all of you together, to do one of the largest registries for diabetes, which was mentioned by Professor Das, the INDIAB registry, 124,000 patients across all states in the country. And that, I think, has been, I think I've seen that resource as a huge resource for the nation, where the way they have worked together to collect the data is absolutely phenomenal and incredible. And I think more power to that. The Young Diabetes Registry, the Gestational Diabetes Registry, the development of generic drugs. Yes, we are not doing very well in new drug discovery, but we have to remember that new drug discovery is very expensive. But as a nation now, with the developed economy, the country has enough money. The country has enough money for research, for new drug development. I think more money has to be put into basic research as well for developing newer drugs, newer molecules, as mentioned by Dr. Paul, that if we can focus on the important thing that is that we do not, and I think that has happened in the past few years, we do not have to follow exactly what is happening in the West. We have our own problems. We have to find our centric solutions, India-centric solutions, which may many times be more cost-effective, and we need to maintain our frugal innovation for healthcare, and that is what surprises most of the world, how empathy and social medicine in India still is thriving, and it's not a fee-for-service kind of a program that is happening in many parts of the world. It happened in the US in a big way, and it spread to countries like India, countries like the United Kingdom, and to Europe, where social medicine is getting kind of buried in many of these countries. But in India, we are still able to nurture social medicine with empathy and try to make it thrive with more than 600 medical colleges, district hospitals in every 700 districts, and also the primary health centers, which are now going to be health and wellness centers. 120,000 of them have been developed. They need a little more push and little more guidance from all of you in such a way that they perform to the maximum level, and we are able to tackle this problem at its grassroots level. Coming to prevention and whether diabetes can be prevented, I think we have all over the last 50 years learned a lot. The whole world has learned a lot, and as we celebrate 101 years of insulin developed by Banting and Best in 1921, we still are learning more about this disease. We still do not know many things, how this disease develops, how it can be. But what we have learned clearly is that we can control it. We can prevent a lot of the microvascular complications for the kidneys, eyes, heart, and the brain with proper control. There are newer technologies. Some of them are innovations which are expensive. Some of them are inexpensive. We need to try to get technologies which are inexpensive yet more cost-effective for a country, and that is what is going to help our population at large for the control of this disease, which, as you have mentioned, is responsible for the complications of all the non-communicable diseases and all the target organs. So I think from the ICMR's perspective also, there is enough money available now for randomized clinical trials, and most of these trials now should be India-led and should be led by Indian investigators. Yes, we can remain part of multicentric international trials, but we need to lead our own trials. We have enough money for running randomized clinical trials from the Indian Council of Medical Research, where our budget has now increased from 1,400 crores to 3,400 crores. So I think it's important to apply for running randomized trials. both in the government sector and the private sector and the NGOs, all working together. I think this is a classic example, looking at the audience here, how representation from all sectors is present. And I congratulate you all, and I'm sure very bright future by 100 years of our independence. We should be the world leaders, clearly. Thank you so much for your attention.
Sir, it has been a revelation. Your congratulatory note, you redefining the challenges that Professor Vinod Paul, Dr. Paul put to all of us, and the way you outlined that what should be done, and most important, inspiring all of us to control diabetes, to take care of the complications. It is a great thought process which will inspire for all time to come. We have no time. Now, before I hand over the forum to Professor Randeep Guleria, Director, AIIMS, for the concluding remarks, I must tell you that these two absolutely pivotal, revolutionary keynote addresses will shape the activities of the 50 years of Rssdi and will take us forward. A good beginning was made in AIIMS by Professor M.M.S. Ahuja. A well continuation for the last 50 years. Sir, both your keynote addresses inspire us for no end and endless perfection.
Thank you. And I would just like to conclude by saying that we've had two excellent talks on what should be the future as far as research and India is concerned. And I think what we're looking at is a roadmap for India at 100. So as we celebrate our 75th year of independence, what would we like our country to be at when we are celebrating our 100th year of independence 25 years from now? And I think that is the challenge that we should all have. Where would we like healthcare to be, non-communicable diseases to be, research to be, the academic environment to be, and how can we look at changing things that are happening in technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, how can that be used to really improve healthcare for the common man? Those are the challenges that we need to address and see what we can do. And I think the roadmap has been set by the two excellent speakers that we've had today of how we need to innovate, think Indian, be Indian, make in India, heal in India, and heal for India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for those very, apt concluding remarks. And we had two brilliant keynote addresses from both the luminaries here. We should have a good round of applause and to felicitate both the speakers. Sir, please. I would request both the chairpersons to felicitate both the speakers, and I would request our patrons, Dr. Siddharth Das and Dr. P.V. Rao, to please join and in the felicitation. Please, sir. With this, we move on to yet another very important keynote address. And to deliver this keynote address, we have none other than the President of International Diabetes Federation, Dr. Andrew Bolton. And to chair this important session, I would request Dr. V. Mohan to please come on the dais, and to join him, I would request Dr. Shashank Joshi to please come on the dais. I am sure the audience here knows both these eminent personalities in the field of diabetes. Just to give a brief introduction for the benefit of those who don't know them, Dr. Mohan is the director and chief of Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Centers. It's a chain of diabetes centers. He has multiple institutions under his leadership: diabetes, Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Education Academy, Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Research Foundation, and so on. And he is the person who has put India on the global map of diabetes. He is, I think, the most decorated person in the field of diabetes in India, with multiple awards to his credit. And some of the top ones are B.C. Roy Award, Padma Shri, and the coveted Harold Rifkins Award of the American Diabetes Association. So, Dr. Mohan, sir, welcome here. And to welcome formally Dr. Mohan, I would request Dr. Sunil Gupta. Sunil, are you there? Please come. Sujay, are you there? So please come. Sujay Ghosh. To chair with him, we have Dr. Shashank Joshi. Shashank, again, is like younger brother to me and doesn't need any introduction, but he is, I think, one of the most celebrated endocrinologists in the country, with number of awards and publications to his credit. Without much ado, I would request Dr. Mohan and Dr. Shashank to please start with the session and invite Dr. Andrew Bolton.
So after two very thought-provoking talks by Dr. Paul as well as Dr. Bhargav, was very congratulatory. We are delighted to have and thankful to Professor Andrew Bolton, who is currently the president of the International Diabetes Federation. I would request Professor Andrew Bolton to come up on the dais here. And please put your hands together, because he had an extraordinarily busy schedule. He had challenges from all areas, including health, but he made it happen to come here. And I have to particularly thank Government of India to support his visa process here in an accelerated way. Otherwise, it would have been a challenge to have him here. So Andrew is, we know him fondly, is the professor of diabetes medicine in University of Manchester, as well as has a dual appointment of professor of diabetes medicine in University of Miami. But he's truly a global professor. This is, we are celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And in 75 years, for the last 38 years, he has been coming to India almost every year, except for COVID. So please put your hands together that every time we called him, he's never said no to us, which is very unique on Andrew's part. And Andrew's got a lot of Indian connections, which Dr. Mohan will just say in a minute. But before that, I have to also introduce something which I learned today morning. Andrew's wife is a Lithuanian. And from Lithuania, the language which they speak from the Baltic Republic has an Indo-Sanskrit origin. It's a Sanskrit origin language. So, he keeps on telling us and making us feel proud all the time. So even today, he taught me something, that the Lithuanian language is originated from Sanskrit. So even in the Baltic republics, and we should be proud. And that's exactly what Dr. Bhargav said. So Andrew, thank you so much for being here and spending the last 3 days in India and recognizing here for the event, which is the Golden Jubilee celebration for Rssdi, the 75th year of Indian independence, and gracing us from the International Diabetes Federation as a Southeast Asia chair, as well as a past president of Rssdi. I welcome you. And I'll request Dr. Mohan to maybe say a sentence before Dr. Andrew starts his vision statement.
Professor Andrew Bolton is no stranger to India, and I think for the last 40 years, he has been coming to India regularly. Probably the only 2 years he didn't come was COVID. And he always fondly says that his first connection was through Chennai, then known as Madras, 40 years ago, and his work with Professor Paul Brand, whom he keeps talking about, where not only the treatment of leprosy, but also diabetes led to his phenomenal work on diabetic foot. And I'm sure all of you in the audience listened to his marvelous lecture. In fact, jokingly, he says that he comes so often to India that he can be considered as an OCI, an overseas citizen of India. And therefore, he was also requested for honorary citizenship of India, which I'm sure we'll be very glad to give him. So, Andrew, you're part of us, and we could not have had the celebration without you. And having the president of the IDF to participate in the Golden Jubilee celebrations of one of the largest diabetes associations in the world, Rssdi currently is the second largest, second only to the American Diabetic Association. And therefore, I think it's very appropriate that we have Professor Andrew Bolton to us. And over to you, Andrew.
Well, thank you very much, Dhanyavad. It's a pleasure to be in India, as it's already been said, and I've sort of got withdrawal from not having been here for the last 2 years. The last time I was here with Shashank and Mohan was at the Association of Physicians of India meeting in Agra, where I remember giving out at the convocation and giving a short talk about for the graduands on that day in January 2020. So my first job is to congratulate Rssdi, and many of you here, as I've heard, have been instrumental in lifting this in the last 50 years to what is now almost the largest professional diabetes society in the world. And as my good friend Mohan said yesterday, I'm sure it soon will be the largest. It won't be difficult to overtake the ADA with your growth that you've experienced. So congratulations to you on that. And also, as Dr. Mohan and Shashank just said, regretfully, I cannot be in Chennai, which I first visited halfway in the 75 years of your independence, 37 years ago. And I cannot be at the meeting in Chennai because, as you just heard, I'm going to be in the Baltic states, where we've had arranged to bring Professor Gary Lewis, whose ethnic origins are actually from the Baltic states, who's a Banting and Best professor in Toronto. We're bringing him to talk about the discovery of insulin and celebrate the first injection of insulin into Leonard Thompson and many more after that, of course, 100 years ago. We will be with you in spirit because we will be speaking Lietuvos, and I could say to you, Labas rytas pone sepone, which is good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Lithuanian. It isn't a Slavic language, as most people think. It is Sanskrit-based, an Indo-European language, so multiple connections with India. Secondly, I would like to congratulate India on the 75 years you celebrate tomorrow of independence. It's amazing. You've grown so much, and I've observed the growth and progress of India over the last half of that 75 years that I've been coming here, and what progress has been made. A leading country in many ways, and we've heard from previous speakers how your health system has developed, how technology has developed, the Silicon Valley down in Bangalore, how virtual medicine has developed, and obviously that has been helped by the COVID-19 pandemic. So congratulations and happy anniversary, 75 years tomorrow, to this wonderful, great country, a great democracy, the largest democracy in the world. So many congratulations. Now, if I can work out how to move the slide, I can. So I'm going to say a few words about IDF, its mission, and where we are today. We are a vibrant association. We have hundreds of member associations across 170 territories right across the world, with 7 regions, this being one of the largest ones, Southeast India, of course, mainly contributed to by this wonderful country. Our mission is here, and I'm not going to read through this slide because you know what our mission is. Of course, living in a world with diabetes would be wonderful, but we've got a long way to go. And listening yesterday to the talks in Mumbai on pre-diabetes and emphasizing the potential prevention, then there is hope. And this great country will take that forward in the many projects you have talking about beating pre-diabetes. And I made the clinical observation coming through Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus in Mumbai that the architect of the airport's actually done very well in promoting health, because it was 5,000 steps from the aircraft to immigration and another 5,000 steps to eventually get out and find the car that was supposed to take me there. So airport planning, and I think seriously, that's somewhat flippant, but seriously, I think one of the big needs is for architectural design. I go to Miami, it's difficult to walk there. You know, you give $5 to someone to pick over the car in valet parking, as they call it, 100 yards away, because it's safer than walking there. So we need architecture. Look at the Netherlands. Look how they've developed. They promote walking and cycling, and cyclists and pedestrians get the first preference. So we need to think of future architectural design of cities to promote healthy physical activity. My bit is I've stopped driving to work. I walk down a 1 in 3 hill and catch the train. On the way back, unfortunately, I'll have to walk up a 1 in 3 hill, which is more challenging. But these are the sort of steps that need to be taken, not only in promoting healthy eating, but also making it possible to exercise. When I was working in the States, people said, you must always take the stairs and not the elevator, which is a lift. I said, well, have you ever tried to walk up the stairs here? Because you can't get out on any floor. So obviously they hadn't. So we need to practice what we preach. So our focus areas are listed there. We're very active across the world, and we have a very good board. I have to say I inherited the IDF at a difficult time, as many of you know, and those of you who are in Busan, especially my good friend Shashank, who is currently the actual chair of this region, the Southeast region. We saw that we had challenges. We had to pick up and rebuild the IDF. We have a very good board here. You can see on my right is Niti Paul, originally from this city. Shashank, you can see there. We've got the guy from Africa there on the right of the two. He's the Deputy Health Minister in Zimbabwe, for example. And Akhtar Hussain is originally from Bangladesh. He's there on the left. He's the incoming president, next president of IDF. He comes from Bangladesh, this region. He works in Norway and is a visiting chair in Brazil. So who could be better qualified? He covers 3 of our 7 regions immediately. So we have a good board, but soon after I took over, another whammy, double whammy, if you like, hit. That was COVID. And we haven't met as a board in person since February 2020. And that was the photograph taken there, pre-COVID. And we're having the first board meeting again in 2 weeks' time. I'm hosting it in Manchester. It's a lot cheaper than going to Brussels. Probably thanks to Brexit, which is a disaster, by the way. But we're hosting it in Manchester. And by the way, you're not going to believe this, Manchester has a drought, and it's hotter there today than it is here. So I've come here to cool off as well. So our 3 pillars are, as you see here, awareness, advocacy, and education. Some numbers here of our member associations, the Atlas downloads there, huge numbers, website visits. So we keep a very active international community. One of the main projects of IDF is to produce the relevant data on the prevalence of diabetes globally. This is the IDF Atlas that is published every 2 or 3 years. The last one was published in last December, so it's up to date, 2021 December. We launched that at the IDF virtual complications meeting in December, which I chaired. So the Atlas is the up-to-date and authority on the prevalence and figures for diabetes across the world. Of course, not always population-based. It's very challenging in some countries, but we get better each time. And we have 2 excellent chairs of the Atlas Committee, Diana Magliani from Melbourne, Australia, and Ed Boyko from Seattle, both internationally recognized epidemiologists. Sadly, the figures continue to increase, and you see here, and all of these are out of date. They're underestimates. I have no doubt, sadly, that the 2030 and 2045 figures will also be underestimates. So here are some of the statistics, and we've been talking about pre-diabetes and prevention. Of course, the data from this country show very high rates, and we heard an excellent lecture from Mohan yesterday evening on these frightening data of the very high numbers of people in this country with pre-diabetes. And we need to emphasize this to our politicians, and that is that diabetes is a serious condition. We need to take it seriously. If you look what happened during the COVID pandemic, papers in the BMJ and Diabetes Care, the Lancet, they said, oh dear, non-communicable diseases are suffering. They're suffering during this pandemic. What about heart disease? What about cancer? Nobody mentioned diabetes. The job of all of us here and the IDF is to raise diabetes globally as a serious condition that can be prevented. Data that I'm in the area of complications, and data we've published, if you have end-stage renal disease and you've lost part of a foot or a toe, you're on dialysis. 75% in a prospective study of 200 patients with the biggest dialysis unit in the country, we have 75% are dead within 2 years. I would put it to you, this is worse than most forms of cancers. So we need to take diabetes seriously. And the message to politicians is that early investment will lead to long-term savings. Sadly, many politicians are only looking to re-election, but we need a longer view of this. And I was honored to share the stage with Sri Narendra Modi ji, your prime minister, a few years ago in Bangalore. And he was a very impressive speaker to me, and obviously in Hindi, a very impressive speaker. And he got up on the stage and said, the biggest threat to the health of India is no longer infectious diseases such as malaria, tuberculosis, it's diabetes. And I had a brief chat with him afterwards and said how right he was. So we have here in your leader, someone who understands and knows about the threats of diabetes. We need other leaders to be very similar because this is a serious condition. It's not just a touch of sugar. What do people say when they're diagnosed? Someone gets cancer, they go and have a screen because they're frightened, or a PSA or a mammogram. And they say, oh my God, you've got cancer, that's terrible. Why does someone take a statin? They don't feel any better. They take a statin because they're frightened of heart disease. But then someone gets diabetes. Oh, don't worry, my grandmother had it, she was 95, no worries. But their outlook is worse if untreated with complications and many forms of cancer. So we need to raise the profile of diabetes. That's the role of the IDF, one of our roles. It's been difficult because the onset of COVID has made it difficult for me to visit. I spoke in the Parliament of Brazil on World Diabetes Day just before COVID. When I told them my case history, I've had prostate cancer and I'm cured. What do people say to me? Oh my God, you've got cancer. If I was someone, I said, I've just got type 2 diabetes, I've got a bit of proteinuria, a bit of numbness in the feet, my outlook's worse. But people say, oh, don't worry about it. That's what we need to change. We can do so much. We don't want to frighten people, but we're not to encourage them to come forward for screening. And the studies done in India here, we heard about yesterday, in really having a mass screening project. Congratulations. Okay, we know the figures, they're very high. So the IDF Atlas is a major resource, and you can download all the details from any country in the world or the whole lot from our IDF website. We have a major collaboration with the World Health Authority, which we value as very important. We're a major part of the ongoing Diabetes Compact. World Diabetes Day we collaborate on, capacity building, and so on. I've skipped one, but I'll move on. What about awareness? This is very important. And of course, World Diabetes Day, we say it shouldn't just be one day in the year, it should be World Diabetes Year. Of course, we celebrate the discovery of insulin 101 years ago, November the 14th, the birthday to Frederick Banting. But we now have a different focus each year. Now, I remember 2005 was focused on the diabetic foot, and we had a lot of activities that year. This year, I made the diabetes nurse, the importance of the nurse in education and management of diabetes, which I encourage you to improve and increase here. The diabetes nurse can look after many people with diabetes. I bow down to them. They're experts in pumps and how to change the CGM. I'm here for complications, but these nurses are part of our equal members of our team, and we need to promote that. So World Diabetes Day is awareness. Of course, we focus on insulin, but also we need to focus on education and access to insulin. So World Diabetes Day is access to diabetes education. We had the IDF school, which was founded by Dr. Sadikot from Mumbai when he was president. Healthcare professionals, but now we're moving also to provide educational programs for people with diabetes. And to low and middle income countries, we provide that without charge. So we need a call to action. free and premium courses for healthcare professionals in our IDF school, and online platforms for people living with diabetes so they can learn more about the condition and how they can help themselves. That's the most important thing. You know, you hear and you forget. This is a quotation. You hear and you forget, you see and you understand, you believe, but you get involved and you understand. So education is not just giving a lecture and then leaving, but get small groups to help people understand how they can look after their own diabetes. So we've started surveys, and you can scan this. You can get this, all these on our website, 2022 survey on education. You can follow the campaign. We're on all these media, which most of them I don't quite understand, but that's being honest. Education, 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 someone said last night, and that's absolutely right. Our school is growing. We have many partners we work with that help funding the programs we're putting on. And it's been a pleasure to join again. We've had to rejoin many. We've joined the International Working Group on the diabetic foot, and also Diabetic Foot International, which is chaired by Vijay Vishwanathan, who's here, one of your vice presidents. So we're working together with societies of interest. We're working on the eye with the Eye Association. We're working in all areas, working with our partners and friends. So working together, giving the same message is important. So we have this new IDF digital platform for people living with diabetes, introduction to diabetes, the importance of blood sugar control, and so on. And we help to unite the diabetes community by our congresses. Now, as I said, I inherited the IDF at a difficult time. Then we had COVID, so we had to cancel our face-to-face congress, which should have been in Bangkok last December, but we are having one this December in the beautiful city of Lisbon, which I would point out to you is not only beautiful, but it's, for you people, it's in December, but it ain't too cold in Lisbon. You're not going to Helsinki. So it's a pleasant climate, and it's the cheapest city in Europe. And it's a beautiful historic city. And we're working with Luis Correa, our former vice president, who's a great supporter of diabetes in Europe and across the world. And he's a friend of IDF, and it's been a pleasure to work with him for the Complications Congress, but we're having a face-to-face meeting in Lisbon, and we look forward to welcoming you there in December. We're also, it's become very important in recent years, crisis response. And we work with Direct Relief, an excellent partner of ours based in the United States and California, and in getting supplies through in difficult times, such as after the major hurricanes, and even in the United States, we've been able to help there. For example, there was a bad hurricane in the South Texas region a few years ago. In earthquakes, in other natural disasters, tsunamis, etc. And more recently, of course, we've been having to help in Ukraine. One of our vice presidents is Dr. Irina Lysenko from Kyiv, the capital, and we've worked with Direct Relief to ensure that supplies are getting through right across the country, with one or two exceptions, which I know, which will be obvious to people. We've been working to ensure that patients living with diabetes in Ukraine get their supplies throughout this very terrible time that they're experiencing. We've also helped recently in the Middle East and also in the Tigray region of Ethiopia, where there was an embargo on importing medical supplies, which we've been able to negotiate out of. So this is part of our world advocacy and responding to crises, which sadly are all too common. So, learn more about our activities. You can subscribe to IDF e-alerts, etc. Visit our website. But I'll leave you with this quotation, first Chinese medical quotation. And this is, we, unfortunately, are mainly inferior or mediocre doctors. Inferior doctors treat the full-blown disease. Mediocre doctors treat the disease before it is evident, but we need to, and Rssdi is good at this, moving up to being superior doctors that prevent the disease. And that's what we've been focusing on in the meeting yesterday in pre-diabetes in Mumbai. Now, I was a great honor for me to visit the ashram in Ahmedabad of Gandhi. And one of his favorite sayings is this, and it seems appropriate on your 75th birthday anniversary tomorrow, for which many congratulations again, to quote his favorite, one of his favorite ones I read about this: "He who strives never perishes, You've strived so hard in the RSSDI in this great country, and I wish you more success. And the second 50 years, so you'll be 100 years old. I fear not many of us will be here to celebrate that, but we're with you hopefully in spirit. So thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure. Welcome to Lisbon.
Thank you so much. Please give a standing ovation to Dr. Andrew Bolton.
Please stand up, please, and give him a standing.
This is also to encourage some physical activity. So thank you, Andrew, so
Thank you
much.
so much.
And I think it's we are very grateful and thankful to Andrew that he came. Today is the 14th of August, and 14th of November is the World Diabetes Day. We are going to make a plea to him that if we could have 14th of August as the World Pre-Diabetes Day, because pre-diabetes is the call for early action and early. That's what he highlighted. So thank you so much, Andrew. Maybe Dr. Mohan, a quick comment and we'll close the session.
So thank you, Professor Bolton. I think for an IDF president to come to a society when it's celebrating its golden jubilee means a lot. It means a recognition right from the top of the International Diabetes Federation, and we are all very grateful to you that as we celebrate the golden jubilee in the very institute where this association started, Professor Ahuja, wherever he is now and looking down at us from heaven, will be very, very pleased, because I don't think he would imagine that a society which was started with 10 or 15 members has now grown to become the second largest in the world, 9,500 and still counting. So coming back to this institution, I think is the greatest homage that we can pay to this great man. And again, he may not have imagined that one day the president of the IDF will be coming here as part of the celebrations, and all the important people like Niti Aayog and ICMR and all the other leaders celebrating this grand occasion. And thank you all for your presence, because without your presence, I don't think the celebrations would have been complete. Being an oration and a keynote address, I think we will not have any questions. But once again, thank you, Andrew, for your kindness and for the love and affection that you show to India in general and RSSD in particular. Thank you very much.
So I would request our chairpersons, Dr. Mohan and Dr. Shashank, to felicitate Professor Andrew Bolton. And to join them, I would request two past presidents of RSSDI, Dr. R.V. Jayakumar and Dr. Rajiv Chawla, to please come on the dais and join the chairpersons for felicitation. So there's a small change in the program. Right now, we are going to take a tea break. So about 15 to 20 minutes, we are breaking for tea, and we are coming back to the hall in another 20 minutes time. Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello.
हेलो 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 चेक चेक हेलो 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 चेक 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 तो इसमें क्यों नहीं आ रहा हेलो 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 जेके 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 चेक 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 टेस्ट 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 जेके 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 आ रहा है सब में आ रहा है हेलो हेलो नहीं आ रहा आ रहा ठीक साउंड नहीं वो नहीं चलेगा
हेलो हेलो ठीक है इसमें बोलो चेक
Can we have the mics? Yeah. May I have your attention, please? I would request everybody to please take seats so that we can start with the program. Srinivas, Purvi, so welcome all of you back here for the proceedings of the RSSDI Golden Jubilee celebrations. As you know, we were supposed to have two very important dignitaries here, Dr. Jitendra Singh, who is Minister PMO and also patron of RSSDI and a very close friend of many of us. Unfortunately, last night, he got the, directions to go to the international border for celebrating the Independence Day with the forces. So he had to leave, but he has sent his recorded message. I would request Mosley to, can we start with the message from Dr. Jitendra Singh?
Rssdi, Dr. Vasant Kumar, President-elect Dr. B.M. Makkad, immediate past President Dr. Banshi Sabu, Secretary Rssdi Dr. Sanjay Agarwal, veterans Dr. A.K. Das, Dr. V. Mohan, Dr. Siddharth Das, Dr. P.V. Rao, Dr. Sheshank Joshi, Dr. Nikhil Tandon, Dr. S.V. Madhu, Dr. Sudhir Bandhari, members of the fraternity, ladies and gentlemen.
Mostly.
At the outset, I have to apologize to you all, and more than to you, I have to
There is
apologize to
doubling of the
myself for
sound.
not
Just
being able to be
start
physically
from the
there, though I
beginning
had wished
again
it so
and make
much.
sure there is
I also
no,
given a commitment, but the last moment something else.
Thank you, sir, for those very kind and very encouraging remarks. We know that you are not there, but you are very much here with us because you are part of the RSSDI and you are also patron of RSSDI. So with this, we move on to the release of RSSDI blue paper, which we are going to present to IDF President Dr. Andrew Bolton. So for the RSSDI blue paper, I would invite, we'll just take a couple of minutes to set up the arrangement here. So first of all, I would invite Dr. Vasant Kumar, President RSSDI. Sir, please take seat. Dr. Bansi Sabu, immediate past President RSSDI. Professor A.K. Das, sir. Dr. Das has been closely working on development of this blue paper, which we are going to present here. So thank you, sir, for your guidance all the time. Please, sir, please join. Dr. V. Mohan, sir. Dr. Shashank Joshi. Shashank Joshi, sir, please. Dr. Siddharth Das. Dr. Nikhil Tandon. Dr. Sanjay Agarwal, the Dynamic Secretary of RSSDI. And Dr. P.V. Rao. Sir, जो आपको पसंद हो जगह वो वाले. Sir. So before we move on to the presentation of RSSDI blue paper, I would request Dr. Das to give a brief about this blue paper because he has been involved very closely with the RSSDI in developing this blue paper. Dr. Das, sir.
Thank you, Bridge, for this rare honor. It was me and Professor B. Mohan, who is present here, who developed this document. Mohan, thank you very much. Dear friends, I'll be very, very brief. There are times in the history of a nation when much time goes in making little contribution. On the other hand, there are times when a little effort produces great results and changes destiny of the nation. And today, in the crossroad of the 75th year of India's independence, the Azadi Mahotsav, and also the Golden Jubilee of the RSSDI, we are one of those Deva Muhurta, the hour of the God, when a little effort will produce great result and change the destiny of the country. Dear friends, this blue paper has recorded the aspiration of all of you, your commitment and your place on this auspicious occasion Your rededication on this fateful day for striving for excellence in diabetes care, which will listen from the various authors how they have taken to the highest heights. Dear friends, I must tell you, on the birthday, even today, till 3-4 years back when our parents were alive, or today, our children do ask us for gift. I have requested the authorities to record this, that on this 50th birthday, we also asked for some gifts from Honorable Health Minister, who will be reading this recording message, to our Minister in the PMO, to the research organizations, most importantly to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. One of the important aspects that we asked the gift on our 50th birthday involve us, give us our participation in all the activities of the Government of India, be it patient care, be it policy decision, be it NCD eradication, be it research, in whatever small way we can. So we want to be a part of it. It is more than the calf wants to suck the milk. The cow, the mother, RSSDI wants to be sucked for the cause of the nation. Dear friends, RSSDI's dedication is this declaration. Our dedication on this auspicious occasion to win over diabetes, and not only diabetes, and the other all NCDs which stem from diabetes, killing 5 birds in 1 stone. Each and every member of this largest diabetes organization on this great occasion rededicates himself or herself for serving the cause of diabetes care, search for diabetes cure, diabetes education. Diabetes being the mother of all non-communicable diseases, this will pave the way for eradication of the non-communicable diseases.
Thank you, sir. So basically, RSSDI blue paper has 10 major causes to which today we are going to commit our, all our efforts to work for those 10 important causes RSSDI is going to commit through this blue paper. And the first one was RSSDI's dedication on occasion to win over diabetes and all non-communicable diseases. So to do this, what we have planned is that we will be committing to these 10 key objectives through 10 very eminent members of RSSDI who will be speaking on behalf of RSSDI to commit to these causes. And I will invite one by one. So with this, I would request Dr. Bansi Sabu to come and read out the second objective of blue paper.
Thank you, Dr. Makkar. On 50th year of RSSDI Golden Jubilee year, we are having the commitment for education and research from RSSDI. I'm sure many of you must have thought, why not it is white paper? But we thought of blue paper. That's blue is the sign of diabetes, and thus there is in this blue paper which we are going to release it. The state-of-the-art integral treatment provision for all children with type 1 diabetes and all adults with diabetes. To provide all children with type 1 diabetes and also adults with other forms of diabetes and state-of-art treatment centered around lifestyle changes, including diet, exercise, yoga, meditation, in addition to appropriate oral and injectable therapies. To monitor for prevention, timely detection, and optimal management of micro and macrovascular as well as metabolic complications of diabetes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bansi. With this, I would request Dr. V. Mohan, sir, to please come and, read out the third key objective.
Thank you, Dr. Makkar. Respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, it gives me great pleasure to read the third declaration of this blue paper, which is related to prevention of diabetes. So we of the RSSDI members all pledge all members to actively promote primordial, primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention of diabetes. And this was beautifully emphasized by all the speakers this morning. This can be done in the following ways. Number one, lifestyle modification. Number two, due emphasis on yoga and meditation. Number three, optimal and evidence-based use of metformin whenever indicated. Proper referral and adequate rehabilitation program for tertiary prevention. Thank you.
So now I request Dr. Shashank Joshi, sir, to please come and do the fourth declaration.
So dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. First of all, we are all here on the eve of 75 years of Indian independence as proud Indians. And this is the 50th year celebration of RSSDI. So it gives me a great pleasure from this blue paper to read the fourth objective, which is call for early action, which is in synchrony with the idea of call for early action, which Andrew probably alluded to. Early action against diabetes. Having noted that early diagnosis, early initial management with strict diabetes control are the keys to success, we as members of RSSDI resolve to take 1. Early action to screen and diagnose diabetes. 2. Early action for proper management of diabetes. 3. Early action for detection for complications of diabetes. And finally, 4. To improve access to care, affordable in this Atmanirbhar India, promotive, preventive, and curative. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you. I request Dr. Siddharth Das to please come and read out the fifth declaration of this blue paper.
Thank you, Dr. Makkad. President RSSDI, patrons RSSDI, immediate past President, President-elect, Dr. Nikhil Tandon, Dr. Shashank Joshi, and all dignitaries here. The blue paper definitely is a monumental document for the RSSDI. Now coming to the fifth facet, defeating diabetes, promoting blood glucose estimation as an essential fifth vital sign in medicine, next to blood pressure, pulse rate, respiratory rate, and temperature. Adequate monitoring for diabetes, eye screening for complications, providing a 360-degree approach to organ protection, heart, kidney, feet, liver, etc., and also with an eye on infection and secondary infection. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Sanjay Agarwal, could you please come and read out the sixth declaration of the blue paper?
Good morning, everybody, to the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, and in presence of President IDF Andrew Bolton, Dr. Andrew Bolton, we humbly submit to you our next pledge, that is, research remains a key ethos of the body. And for that, for research and innovation, the driving force of RSSDI being primarily a research organization and has established itself as a diabetes organization in India. It will promote short-term and long-term research programs, organize research methodology workshops, seminars, and conferences to promote scientific treatment for everyone with diabetes. RSSDI appeals to all the diabetes research organizations in our country like ICMR, DBT, DST, CSIR, and others to involve it as a partner in research on various aspects of diabetes. We also pledge to associate and promote research in the areas of national importance, and we wish to partner with the Government of India so that we can achieve this objective. We're also keen to partner with everybody and anybody who believes that we need to bring diabetes care to a national level. Thank you very much.
Dr. Nikhil Tandon, sir, please come and read out the seventh declaration.
Thank you. So this is about participation and partnering. Sorry, I should take this off. Participation and partnering in the Government of India Ministry of Health National Health Programs. And I think this case was made pretty strongly by the president of the RSSDI today in the morning. and by other functionaries of the RSSDI, that with 20,000 members and 615 district conveners, and a very strong presence of our members, be they healthcare providers and in all the areas, doctors, nurses, nutritionists, foot care providers, diabetes educators, in every tier of healthcare delivery, the RSSDI offers itself to associate and contribute its best in the Ministry of Health, Government of India, state governments' health programs, and non-governmental organizations' health programs. And I think the appeal needs to go through very strongly that there's a sincere request to the Government of India across, and I think not merely the Government of India, but also to the state governments, given our federal structure, to give us an opportunity to be involved in national diabetes, NCD, and other related health programs. Being somebody who doesn't like listening to instructions very well, I've already informed both the former president and the future president that I shall exceed my brief and speak what I want to speak on this. Endocrine disruption is a known part of our existence, and I proceed to be a disruptor. I just wanted to point out two things, and this is important. I happen to be on a WHO group which has now come up with a set of targets for member countries. Remember, so India has to be a part of that. And this was accepted in the 75th General Assembly, the World Health Assembly this year in May in 2022. It's important for us to hear these, and there are 5 targets which have now been agreed upon. Whether, like several other goals, we will achieve those targets or not is a different matter. But I think those targets are not achievable without intervention of not-for-profit organizations like the RSSDI, and it becomes very important. Those 5 targets are, number one, that at least 80% of people with diabetes should be diagnosed. Given the rule of halves, it possibly balances out about 50% of people with diabetes. So we're saying at least 80% of people with diabetes should be diagnosed. At least 80% of people with diabetes should have an A1C of less than 8%. I'm not saying we should try for more, but given, if you look at average A1Cs, we've done several programs there, always more than 8%. Number 3, that people with diabetes, at least 80% of people with diabetes should have a blood pressure which is in target, which is 130/80. At least 60% of people with diabetes should be on a statin. And now that possibly aligned itself with the WHO requirement that people above 40 with diabetes should be on a statin. Now, you may agree or you may disagree with the member states have agreed. And with respect to what Banshi said, and I think this is very important, every single, so it is 80%, 80%, 80%, 60%. But it's 100% of people with type 1 diabetes should have access to affordable insulin and self-monitoring equipment and strips. Because just giving people insulin in that is of no use unless they can monitor and respond. So these are the 5 targets. They are not up in the air. They are a proposal which went to the World Health Assembly and has been accepted by member states. So if our needs a bit of prodding on that, I think it is our responsibility as the RSSDI to give that prodding. And the second small point, again, for an interface is, remember the national program, it's a bit of a mouthful, which started as a national program for the prevention and control of cancer, diabetes, CVD, and stroke. Then we added CKD, we added a bit of pulmonary disease, we've added about 17 other diseases now. So I think they've collapsed it into a national NCD program, which is what is going to be rechristened. Again, the important thing to remember is that the new operational guidelines for the national NCD program are in the making, have been in the making for a while, but obviously COVID has diverted and distracted a lot of people. And I'm hopeful that those guidelines should be now coming sooner than later. Again, a critical, even if we are not involved in an organization to establish those guidelines, a lot of us have been involved in help making them. But in terms of dissemination and implementation, I think it's critical because that guidance system cannot be restricted to government healthcare institutions alone, very simply because that provides only 30% of healthcare in the country. 70% is provided by the private sector. And therefore, a significant buy-in is required. So I think on these 2 grounds, I would sort of put more pressure on the organization, to put more pressure on the government to do what we think is appropriate. And my apologies for having spoken more than what I was expected to.
So that was not an endocrine disruption, that was an endocrinologist disruption. So with that, we move on to the next declaration. I would request Dr. Vasant Kumar, President RSSDI, to please come and do the needful.
Thank you, Dr. Nikhil, for really elaborating your points that were mentioned to you. So friends, you know, diabetes awareness and education is one of the most important aspects of prevention as well as management of diabetes. So needless to mention, the diabetes education is the key to the success of diabetes care. Hence, we all pledge ourselves to augment and carry forward the legacy of diabetes education, which itself is an excellent tool for health education for the whole nation. We'll carry this National Diabetes Education Program, what we call it, National Diabetes Education Program, to every corner of our country. And this will change the destiny of millions of Indians and will pave way for the disease-free and diabetes-free India. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. P.V. Rao to please come and read out the 9th declaration of the blue paper.
Thank you. Respected dignitaries and my colleagues. My presentation today is the most important objective of RSSD is to betterment of diabetes specialty services. You all know diabetes is a sweet disease, but it is in the company, the sour company of complications of liver, kidney, heart and brain and other organs. So it's a paramount importance for RSSD to rededicate itself for masterclass training, patient care services and research in these areas. We also appeal to Government of India through its Ayushman services to provide full support for this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And this brings us to the last, but not the least important declaration of this blue paper, which I am going to read on behalf of RSSDI. And this is to continue and upgrade existing and ongoing public and healthcare provider programs. So on behalf of RSSDI, or we all at the RSSDI pledge ourselves to upgrade and continue the projects already in existence, such as public education programs in national and regional languages like Weekly Diabetes Bites, Protect Your Feet, National Defeat Diabetes Program, and training of the healthcare providers, with a host of other such programs like Diabetes IPL, activating all the state chapters, national quiz programs, and several other activities. So, thank you. So with this, these are the 10 important declarations that we are submitting to Health Ministry on behalf of RSSDI or from the RSSDI. And there is a short pledge that we all are going to take on behalf of RSSDI. And I'm requesting Dr. Vasant Kumar sir to please come and read the pledge, and we all will read after him.
Friends, what we are going to do is we very much understand that every one of us are a part of the whole thing. So let's all stand and let's all take the pledge together. What I'm going to say is I say 2 words which will be repeated by all of you. Oh, thank you for standing. Now I read. RSSDI pledges its solidarity, dedication, and offers itself for serving Mother India with full devotion, love, and sincerity. We dedicate ourselves for a diabetes-free Bharat. A Swasth Bharat. Thank you. Jai Hind. Jai RSSDI.
Jai Hind. So, Dr. Andrew Bolton, can we have you on the dais, please, sir? And Dr. Vasant Kumar is going to present this blue paper to Dr. Andrew Bolton, the President of International Diabetes Federation. Sir, please.
Yes, please.
So, oh yes, of course.
Thank you very much, and I will take these back to IDF. Indeed, we have a board meeting in just 2 weeks from now. Now, it was Franklin Roosevelt who gave instructions how to speak. Be upright, be sincere, be brief, be seated. And each one of you stuck to those rules, so I'm very impressed. And your objectives are succinct and very clear. And that is much more important than reams of pages that will not be read. So this is going to be read. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. With this, we have some felicitations. So can I request everyone to please be back?
At the stage. But
And
Andrew will be here.
okay, and Dr. Andrew will stay back as directed by our Bansi sir. And now I am going to hand over to Dr. Bansi for the further proceedings of the program. Sir.
Sir. So it's time for celebration. It's the 50th year of RSSDI, and those who founded the RSSDI, we should felicitate them. We are so lucky that we have with us Dr. Vinod Kumar, who was the founder secretary of this RSSDI. And it's a great pleasure for me to invite Professor Dr. Vinod Kumar to on the stage. And I can request Dr. Sunil Gupta, our treasurer, to escort him. To felicitate Professor Dr. Vinod Kumar, I request Dr. Andrew Bolton, who is the president of International Diabetic Federation, and to join him, I will request Dr. Shashank Joshi, who is the chair of IDF Southeast Asia. Please felicitate Professor Dr. Vinod Kumar with a shawl and with the bouquet. And I will also request the present Executive Committee of RSSDI 2022, all of them to come up here to have one photograph with Professor Dr. Vinod Kumar. I will also request Dr. Rajiv Chawla, who is a currently editor of our RSSDI textbook, and technically he's a part of our executive committee. So I request Dr. Rajiv Chawla also to come up the stage and to have one photograph with Professor Dr. Vinod Kumar, who has founded our RSSDI. He's a founder secretary of RSSDI. A big round of applause for Professor Dr. Vinod Kumar and to have one photo with him. Yes, yes. We have with us Professor Dr. D.K. Hazra. He was also one of the founder member, and we are so lucky that we have with us Dr. D.K. Hazra. I request Dr. Hazra Sahab to come up in the stage and to have it photographed. Yes, please, Anuj, please escort him. Thank you. I'll be requesting Professor Andrew Bolton to be here, Dr. Shashank, please here, and Dr. D.K. Hazra, please be here. And then I will be requesting Dr. Vinod Kumar to talk about the RSSDI. This is very important. So we are going to have his words of blessings. He will also start with the history of RSSDI. And that video we are going to keep on our website itself, So whatever today he is going to talk, we are going to have recording of that, and that will be permanently stored on our website. So over to Professor Dr. Vinod Kumar, sir, please.
I'll be careful because it is being recorded.
It's otherwise also live, complete program is
Okay, okay. Thank you, Bansi. Thank you, all the dignity on the dais and off the dais. Before I speak about RSSDI, I will just say very few words about Dr. Ahuja. Dr. Nikhil Tandon has already told about him, but I had a very personal contact with him. Dr. Ahuja, when he came to All India Institute as assistant professor in 1958, he was sent to MGH, Massachusetts General Hospital, for advanced training in endocrinology, so that on his return, he could set up a unit of endocrinology in Department of Medicine. And when this unit was being established, they required an assistant professor. The post was advertised. There were two posts were advertised, one in endocrinology and one in medicine. Dr. Bajaj and myself, both were the applicant. Dr. Bajaj was placed number one for both the positions. So my future was uncertain. But to my good luck, Dr. Bajaj preferred to occupy the position of assistant professor of medicine, and that is how I got into endocrinology. So that is a fortuitous development for me personally. Now about Dr. Ahuja, he was a mentor, a great and very strong mentor for me. And to that extent that I could say, when I look back about my own life at the back, I find that my personality has been somewhat altered in the manner how Dr. Ahuja used to act. So he was so powerful in his personality. So he I think, ingrained some of his qualities into me, although not of course to that standard. So I would regard, as far as my personality is concerned, it was my father, and next in my formative years, it was Dr. Ahuja. Dr. Ahuja had a special corner for me. He would whip me to go on working and encourage me to the utmost. At a very young age, when people will not even think of going abroad, he would send me to England, meet with a lot of people of the day, Harry Keane and Wilfred Oakley and so many other people. I knew so many people. I was talking to Andrew yesterday. That was all because of Dr. Ahuja. And then he introduced me to international audience at another meeting. So he was encouraging me all the time. And Dr. Ahuja had a great grit and desire to invite a lot of eminent people from various countries. And just to name some of them at that time, Dr. Pfeiffer, Dr. Kreutzfeldt from Germany, Harry Keane, Reg Hall from Newcastle, and so many other, even Solomon Burson, whose colleague Yellow got the Nobel Prize. And to every one of them, he would introduce me. He is my assistant. He won't say assistant professor. He would say, he's my assistant. And I was always flabbergasted that he actually takes me as his assistant in every matter. And then he said, Vinod Kumar, go ahead. And we started Rssdi. And at the time of the day, a very big organization exists, Diabetic Association of India, for which the primary concern was the patient awareness. But Dr. Ahuja said, we want to have an organization which is only research oriented. So I obeyed him. I went to the registrar office and moved here and there. I had a scooter at that time. There were no cars with people. Even Dr. Ahuja had an old ambassador car, which will often break down. And his wife, Mrs. Meera Ahuja, was my contemporary in the medical school from where I came. She was just 2 years senior to me. So she would drive the car, and wherever it breaks down, she would give a call to Dr. Ahuja. Bhai, car kharab ho gayi hai, jara aa jao. So then Dr. Ahuja would come. चल भाई अपना स्कूटर लेके चल, वो पीछे बैठ के टायर लेके चले आ रहे हैं हम दोनों, तो पंचर लगवा रहे हैं. So that kind of relationship we had. So having said something about Dr. Ahuja, who was who really ignited in me the love for profession of medicine and endocrinology. So this is how Rssdi was born. And initial few members, there were 10 members, initial 10 members. Dr. B.B. Tripathi was number one, and then Dr. M.K. Chetri, Dr. Vishwanathan, Dr. Moses, and let me not forget, out of these 10 members, And there was one Dr. N.G. Srinivasa, of course, Dr. O.P. Gupta, Dr. Naresh Bhu from Udaipur, and followed by Vinod Kumar, and followed by M.M. Sahuja, and followed by M.B. Rao. This was the sequence. I still carry the register of membership. I have about 50 people. No, he came after 10. He comes after 10. So this list I will share with the Rssdi for the records. And these big stalwarts, Dr. Mohan's father included, Dr. Vishwanathan, Dr. Moses, they all loved me because I was a young person. So they made me work like a donkey, but I was also a blue-eyed person. I was a blue-eyed person for all of them. So they said, they will ring up BB Tripathi, Are, bhai, Vinod, ye karna hai. And I will take the scooter and run. So same thing was happening with each one of these stalwarts. And because I was really getting so much enjoyment out of this work and out of their motivation that I evolved into a person. And thanks to all these stalwarts. Now, at that time, we were in a primitive stage. Rssdi was in a non-digital era. We were depending on cyclo-styling, posting, going to post office, putting letters, and slowly, I think, I left after 7 years as the organizing, as the secretary. So in 79 or 80, if I correctly remember, there were about 200 members. And the financial situation of the Rssdi was very poor. The fee for the delegate fee for the various conferences was never exceeded 25 rupees. The life membership was 100 rupees, but if a person was endocrine society member, he would only pay 50 rupees. And so like that, it was a very bad state of affairs. And I was seeing the budget. In 1972, the budget was only 300 rupees, whole year. 1973, the budget increased to 3,000. 1973-4, it increased to about 5,000. Slowly it was increasing till 1978 or 79, it went up to 14, 15,000. So budget was a real problem. Now, one thing I would like to say in a lighter sense, Ahuja Sahab asked me, go and register the society. So I went to register society near the Red Cinema, very far at that time from All India Institute. Got the society registered and I paid 50 rupees as a registration fee. And Rssdi has never cared to pay back that 50 rupees to me. Okay. With interest. So I think I would have a lot of interest to earn. And my salary at that time was, I think, 600 rupees. So 50 rupees was little pinching to me. Anyway, so that was a lighter sense. And then, of course, coming to serious issues, the first executive committee meeting of Rssdi happened on 25th September 1972. The first scientific meeting, annual meeting, happened in December 1972, and then every year, 73, 74, up to 79, 80, I kept on organizing most of them, whether they were in Delhi or even outside. I remember in 1975, it was Chennai meeting. Sam G.P. Moses had organized it, but I was organizing from the administrative point of view. So that was all about it. So it was a very exciting era for me. And there are a lot of things I can talk about this society. And then the first book which was edited on behalf of Rssdi was Disorders of Carbohydrate Metabolism, which I edited, and it had contributions by a lot of people like Rolf Luft, E.A. Pfeiffer, Peter Songson, Middlesex Hospital, and so many other foreign and, of course, Indian authors. And this book was reviewed to our great pride, to the pride of Rssdi. It was reviewed by no other person than Max Ellenberg, at that time the president of IDF. He is the same person who was followed by Harold Rifkin as the president of IDF, and both of them had earlier written a book on diabetes in 1962. And both Dr. Andrew Bolton and Dr. Mohan happened to be the receiver of the Harold Rifkin Award of ADA. And then another thing which happened, a meeting took place by the World Health Organization at London. This was on multinational study on vascular disease and diabetes. Dr. Ahuja was invited from Asia, and there were total 16 people from all over the world from different regions. But Dr. Ahuja preferred and wrote to them, I'm not coming, I'm sending my assistant, Dr. Vinod Kumar. So I was very excited. I remember I went to my father and I told him I'm going to London. Very good. How at young age you are being invited? I said, I'm invited because of Dr. Ahuja. So I went there and I met all the big people. One of them was the father of epidemiology in USA from Oklahoma. I'm forgetting his name. Kelly West. Kelly West was there, and Harry Keene was there, and a lot of other people were there. And that meeting led us to publish a paper in the journal Diabetes. Diabetes was a very prestigious journal at that time. And Dr. Ahuja and my name were included in that paper, which was published primarily by Kelly West. So this is how we all were exposed to the international audience. So I would again say that my mentoring was absolutely done by Dr. Ahuja. And he infused a sense of motivation in my personality to such an extent. And later on, within, I think I joined in 65, and in 78, I moved to PGI as professor and head of endocrinology. And then when I came back, I went abroad for a few years. And that was the story of my closer association with Dr. Ahuja. Later, of course, I had a mandate to develop geriatrics at All India Medical Sciences, which I did to the best of my ability. But the entire thing that I was able to do in my life, even till today, that the beginning was made by Dr. Ahuja. That is what I wanted to say. And with regard to RSSDI, its journey has gone along. I only know about the journey for a few years as far as very close examination is concerned. But I think later, so many stalwarts went on joining the march in the journey of RSDI. And today, you all know where we stand. And I think RSDI is in very safe hands, is going to attain further heights all the time to come. And I'm very happy that I'm standing before you as a testimony of witness how RSDI has risen to such great heights. Thank you very much.
It's a standing ovation. I mean, it's wonderful, wonderful memories which we all cherish. Yeah. Do you know he has taken us back 50 years? All of you sit. And all of you are born after 1972. Can you get up? Those who are born after 1972.
Me also.
Oh, that hai. Yeah, hai. Hai, yeah. That hai. See, sir, you have told the stories before their birth. So many of them. Great. It's wonderful. We will cherish your memories too.
I want to say just one more thing.
Yes, sir.
One of the presidents of RSSDI was Lieutenant General R.S. Hoon. To my knowledge, he is the senior most person ever joined RSDI. He was born in 2017, 1917. And he was Lieutenant General Army and he was Director General of AFMC. He was known to Dr. Ahuja and he was inducted as the president. And with him, our society went further quite high because of his help.
Yes, sir. Yes. Dr. Ahuja photography put. Yes, sir, we are going to have. We are going to have. So, with this now, I request to felicitate one of our founder member, Padma Shri Dr. D.K. Hazra. And I request Dr. Vinod Kumar to felicitate Dr. Hazra, and I will request Dr. Andrew Bolton and Shashank Joshi to join to felicitate our founder member, Dr. D.K. Hazra, sir. Please, sir.
I'll be requesting Dr. D.K. Hazra to talk about RSSDI, history of RSSDI. He was the first one who started diabetes newsletter, which was long way. Dr. D.K. Hazra was the editor for that. So Dr. D.K. Hazra, please.
How shall one begin? Fellow warriors in the fight against diabetes, both in the national and the international dimension, you are all aware how the RSSDI has spurred our activities throughout the nation. I remember Dr. Ahuja's coming to Agra for our, I think, second or third national conference. And I had the privilege at that time of editing the proceedings of that meeting. And as Dr. Vinod Kumar was saying, at that time, we didn't have the money to print it. So the entire publication was cyclostyled, but a very voluminous volume which attracted attention all over the country and even from abroad because of the quality of its contributions. The organizing secretary was at that time another close friend, Professor Nandal Patni, who is no more. He was primarily a nephrologist, but he was closely associated with the RSSDI's initial birth, and both he as well as I were instrumental in that second national conference of the RSSDI in Agra. All I would like to say is that you have had today the benefit of two outstanding keynote addresses about what are the challenges ahead in diabetes. All I'll say is that people like Professor Ahuja or people like Dr. Vinod Kumar taught us how to go about addressing these challenges in a systematic manner. Dr. Ahuja, we knew not only as a senior teacher from AIIMS, he also used to be very often the external examiner in our MD exams at Agra, and the high standard that he insisted on and maintained in the teeth of all sorts of political pressure was something I cherish. He was an outstanding academician, and he was very clear that no amount of, in those terms, what was called political or bureaucratic pressure could alter the way in which he would advise. The two things I would especially remember about Dr. Vinod Kumar. Yes. The two things I would like to recount about Dr. Vinod Kumar. When he was, I think, 3 years my senior in Sarojini Naidu Medical College, Agra. And at that time, when we would do dissections, the students of the 5th year literally would come and help us not only give us advice about dissection, but also revise their own anatomy, their surgical anatomy and medical anatomy. So it was a very close bonding. And I again remember Dr. Vinod Kumar for his advising me when I had the opportunity of applying for a Commonwealth Medical Fellowship. So he said, you know, Hazra, you should go and join Roger Eakins at the Middlesex. That was, I think, a very fateful decision, because as you all know, today, radioimmunoassay and exact measurement of hormonal levels is a key to much of our present understanding of endocrinology. And Roger Ekins, who had invented the T3, T4, free T3 and free T4 assays, was an outstanding example of that intellectual ferment. Working with him, I was privileged to, he said, Hazra, go and visit Cardiff and there see what they are doing with PTH. At Cardiff, they were inventing a new type of assay, the immunoradiometric, the labeled antibody assay for PTH. And he said, Hazra, why can't we do this for TSH? I said, yes, sir. And we did it. We published the first labeled antibody assay for TSH, which attained a sensitivity far greater than not only the bioassays, but also the current radioimmunoassays at that time, and enabled us to diagnose both hyper and hypothyroidism from a single measurement, apart from being in the control of. So that introduction to scientific method, accuracy, and measurement, I think has proved invaluable to me. Finally, as I said, Dr. Vinod Kumar was my teacher in many ways, and much of what I later did for Rssdi, for the Nuclear Society, for the Society of Nuclear Medicine, is devoted, I think, much to the training which Dr. Vinod Kumar imparted. And Dr. Vinod Kumar had just come back from Hammersmith. At that time, he was, I think, working on growth hormone. But he said, no, Hazra, you go to Roger Ekins and you will find that a wonderful experience. And I'm sure, even now today, I say that it was one of the most creative periods in my life. And one other interesting thing was when we developed the T3, T4, free T3, free T4, TSH assays, Roger said, we are not going to patent. We are going to publish and make it available to the world. And today, they are the most widely used assays in endocrinology the world over. But you know, that was an atmosphere of intellectual freedom. The visitors to the laboratory included people like Milstein and Kohler, who invented the technique of hybridomas for making monoclonal antibodies. They were close friends of Roger, and they too did not patent the monoclonal antibody technology. And today, you know, the monoclonal antibodies constitute at least 50% of a therapeutic armamentarium in diverse fields. So I pray that we in India continue to not only contribute scientifically, but also see that the results of science are available throughout the world to all our brethren without considerations of profit and thus we repay the debt to society. That RSSDI has been instrumental in helping me along, that people like Dr. Huja and Dr. I would also like to make 3 more mentions along with Dr. Huja. Very people who influenced me. One was, of course, the illustrious father of 2 of our great stalwarts today in RSSDI, Dr. Mohan and his Dr. Vijay Vishwanathan, their father, Dr. Tripathi, Dr. Sam Moses, all of them created an atmosphere of intellectual ferment in RSSDI, where the emphasis was not on having conferences, but the emphasis was on doing good work. May the Almighty continue to bless us and bless me in this scientific endeavor. Thank you.
what we are today, we have with us many past presidents with us, and I would like to invite all our past presidents to on the desk. We start with Dr. A.K. Das, Dr. V. Mohan, Dr. Siddharth Das, Dr. P.V. Rao, Dr. R.V. J. Kumar, and Dr. Rajiv Chawla. Like to felicitate. And we know that Dr. A.K. Das, Dr. P.V. Rao, Dr. V. Mohan, Dr. Siddharth Das are currently the patron. And we have with us our past president, Dr. Shashank Joshi, who is currently chair of IDF Southeast Asia. I will request Dr. Vinod Kumar, who is our founder secretary, to felicitate each one of them, please. So I request to have with the shawl. First, I will request Dr. Ashok Kumar Das, sir. Our founder president, Dr. O.P. Gupta, was from city of Ahmedabad. We lost him just last year. He was president for RSSDI for 2 terms, as a founder president, and again in 1997 when we have done our RSSDI. Dr. V. Mohan, sir. Dr. Ashok Kumar Das, Dr. V. Mohan, they all are the patrons of the society. Dr. Siddharth Das, sir. We are missing many of our past presidents who could not come, or the patrons. Dr. Siddharth Das. Dr. P.V. Rao. Dr. P.V. Rao is a currently patron of RSSDI. He is a past president of RSSDI and longest serving secretary of RSSDI. We know that he had worked for RSSDI for 20 years. Dr. R.V. J. Kumar from Kochi, the past president of RSSDI. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. Yes. And our own, my elder brother, Dr. Rajiv Chawla, past president of RSSDI, currently is very active also. And he is our textbook editor and executive editor of IJDCC. And very close friend, Dr. Shashank Joshi, who is a past president of RSSDI, very young and dynamic, who is currently holding the post of International Diabetic Federation Southeast Asia Chair. We would like to felicitate him as a past president of RSSDI from Dr. Vinod Kumar. Thank you. I will just request Dr. V. Mohan.
Can we just also felicitate our just immediate past president, Dr. Bansi immediate past president.
We can't think of him as past at all. He's always there.
That's why we didn't call him.
Because he's always in the present. Thank you for reminding, sir. Thank you for reminding us that he's a past president.
We are not considering him past.
It's 12:30. We will not take much time. So that's the reason I'm not requesting every past president for remarks. But we know that we had kept this 14th August, the day which is very important, as we were celebrating 75 year of our Azadi, which is 15th August tomorrow. We know that the birthday of our Professor MMS Ahuja is on 16th August. This installation, the program RSSDI was done in July. It was registered as a body in July. We asked Dr. Vinod Kumar, and the September was the first meeting. So to announce few things, I just request Dr. V. Mohan, and then we will have further program. Please, sir.
Now, as I was sitting there, I was thinking that we spoke so much about Professor Ahuja. We must have something to remember Professor Ahuja by permanently, because this is an association which is clearly due to him. So just when I saw this come up, 16th August, I thought, why not declare 16th August as RSSDI Day? And every year we will celebrate RSSDI Founders Day and dedicate that to Professor Ahuja. That way, just as Banting will never be forgotten because World Diabetes Day is celebrated on 14th of November, we will never forget 16th August because we'll always remember our founder director, but founder president. No, he was not even founder president. He was the founder of RSSDI. He was never president, and he was only the founder. He always stayed behind, like Mahatma Gandhi, never held any role. He is always behind. So this is the greatest tribute on the Golden Jubilee Day that we can. So let's make 16th August as RSSDI Founder Day and remember Professor Ahuja forever.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So we will be having 16th August as a RSSDI Founders Day, and that every year we will be celebrating by doing a lot of activities, social activities. For this year, as we know, in last 3 months, we have done, for 1 month, we have done a great campaign, Save the Fit campaign. Yesterday, we have already celebrated. And just to invite again Dr. Vijay Vishwanathan, who was the key person for doing this Save the Fit campaign, which we have done. And in last 100 days, more than 50,000 fit were examined. And this is the occasion. Yesterday, even we have celebrated that occasion. So I will request Dr. Vijay Vishwanathan, along with him, Dr. Amit Gupta, who is the coordinating for nationally for this, just to recognize them and to have handshake with all past presidents. Nothing else we can give them. Only handshake with everyone, with all past presidents, you know. That's the only thing which we can give, but they have done a great work in last 3 months. The Save the Fit campaign which we have done. One very important and extraordinary activity which we have done in last 2.5 years. It is our RSSDI social media campaign. And through our social media page, through our RSSDI Facebook page, we could reach thousands of laypersons across the country. And for that, I request Purvi Chawla. We would like to felicitate Purvi Chawla. She had done really a dedicated work for RSSDI on this social media campaign, and we could reach out thousands of persons across the country with the help of this social media campaign. I will request our Vinod Kumar sir, founder, secretary, along with Dr. Andrew Bolton, to have, you can have one photo with them. Yes, I'm going to do, yes. Thank you, Purvi. It was real great. Sir, a big round of applause should be done for our Dr. Sanjay Agarwal, the Secretary of RSSDI. I will say, please continue to clap for Dr. Sanjay Agarwal, who has done marvelous work in last 2 years with so much work on the website. Those who have not visited the website, please visit the website. It is a wonderful website done by Dr. Sanjay Agarwal. I will request again our founder secretary to felicitate Dr. Sanjay Agarwal as a secretary. Currently is the secretary of RSSDI. A big round of applause for Dr. Sanjay Agarwal, and he should be felicitated at this platform. Dr. Sanjay, really great work. It's done by Dr. Sanjay Agarwal. Dr. Vasant Kumar is going to make a new announcement. Something new should come.
I need to make another announcement before he does. Wait. I think a big round of applause for Bansi Sabu, who's been the heart and soul of RSSDI and who's been instrumental for the Defeat Diabetes campaign last year. But besides that, he has many accolades, which is, to his credit. The RSSDI took off on a trajectory in your presidency. And after that, he just sustained it. So a big round of applause for Bansi. May I request Dr. Bolton and Dr. Vinod Kumar to felicitate him, please.
Bansi, the past president.
Yeah.
Sir, one very important announcement which we are going to do. This is the 50th year of RSSDA which we are completing. And then we thought there are many members who have become the member of RSSDA and they are very young. They are young like 25 because immediately after MBBS you can become the member of RSSDI. And we thought of that we should have a Yuva RSSDI, a youth wing of RSSDI. And those who are below the age of 35, they can become the, not 45. So below the age of 35, they can become the part of this youth wing of RSSDI. I will request if anyone who is RSSDI member and below the age of 35 to come up on the stage just to have the blessings from our founder secretary. I know who are they, but those who are there, they can have the blessings from our founder secretary, and that's what UA RSSDI, which we are going to launch. And this will be a full-fledged UA RSSDI program will be launched in our annual general body meeting, which will be there in Chennai RSSDI. And you will need the Aadhaar card. Yes, sir. You want to tell? Welcome to you and welcome to Hassan. वो यूसुफ को थोड़ा वो करने अभी ये भी करा देंगे उसको वही बता रहा हूं Sanjay, he wants to give something to us. So only blessings can be taken.
So Bansi will qualify in that category. So Bansi should join on the stage.
So yes, sir. If any past president want to make any other comment, Rajiv.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Bansi, for this opportunity. Well, I was not part of this schedule, but Bansi asked me to say a few words. My association with RSSDI is since close to 96, although I formally joined as a member in 2001. And that brief interaction, few meetings I have with Professor M.M. Sahuja through Professor Vinod Kumar. Professor Vinod Kumar, I think, still remembers that I worked with him for about a year in a hospital. We were part of the same unit, and there he exchanged a lot of memories which he had with Professor M.M. Sahuja with me, and certain meetings while in Delhi on certain CMEs, I had brief interaction with Professor M.M. Sahuja. I once applied, I remember when I shifted to Delhi in 1991, I wanted to work with Professor M.M. Sahuja. That time he was at that institute which is in Qutub area, but somehow it didn't work out, and I got an opportunity to be an independent consultant in a different hospital where I'm still working for almost 31 years. And there Professor Vinod Kumar, because he retired from All India Institute, so we wanted him as a mentor, as a coordinator for our DNB program. And so all those brief meetings, I came to know that how wonderful Professor M.S. Ahuja has been, his efforts, what has been put to bring RSSG to this level. And 2001, I formally joined RSSG. After that Chandigarh meeting, if I correctly remember, Professor Dash conducted that, and we had an interaction with Dr. Dendona. I went on to do my short fellowship with Dr. Dendona and then returned. 2005, we formally founded RSSDI Delhi chapter with Dr. Madhu as chair and me as a founder secretary, and Dr. Makkad, who is going to take over RSSDI this year in November as a president. That time he was our treasurer. Dr. Makkad, I'm sure, may not put it into the record, but we pulled him through. He was never keen being part of an organization, but I think I always pulled him through. I remember he was not even keen joining as RSSG EC member and then subsequently as a secretary also. But I know with his huge efforts, he is now going to take RSSDI to greater heights. Of course, the climax, the benchmark has been the presence of Bansi over last 2 years. And I think that, as Sanjay very rightly said, has taken RSSG to a different trajectory. So down the line from Professor M.M. Sahuja, Professor Vinod Kumar, Mohan sir, Siddhartha sir has been, Dr. Das has always been like a elder brother and a mentor to all of us. And I'm sure with Dr. Vasant Kumar, who has done excellent work, what was being continued through Bansi's in this 1 year, and Dr. Makkad will take it to greater heights. And I wish RSSGI a great success in coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. One more thing which we have started in this 50th year of RSSDI. The primary aim of RSSDI was research. And this year we have done research retreat meeting. And that was a unique meeting which we have done in RSSDI. That was, we invited all those who have presented their work already somewhere in their presented, the published work, that we invited. And more than 150 deliberation and papers were presented in that. I must give here the thank to Dr. Mohan, who is our research committee chairman, for this wonderful work which we have done, and probably we will continue. I also would like to remind that every year we come out with a yearbook of diabetes. And this book, many of you must be getting it. We are forgetting, but this is a unique book which we are creating from India. And this is a yearbook of diabetes by RSSDI. And here I would like to acknowledge the work done by Dr. Sujoy Ghosh. Sujoy, you please come on the stage, which he has done a wonderful work from RSSDI. We are doing IJDCC journal. We are doing textbook. We do every year yearbook of diabetes. We have our newsletter. So many publications which we are doing, and just requesting Dr. Andrew Bolton to felicitate Dr. Sujoy Ghosh for his wonderful work which he has done. And last and very important is Dr. Rajiv Chawla just talked about in 2005, our state chapter was built. The first chapter was RSSDI Delhi chapter. Then we were having Mumbai, and then across the country with 28 states, 23 chapters were formed across the country. And I'll be requesting all those from different states who have come here, the state chair or state secretary, or if both of them are there, please come for one photograph. All state chapter chair and state secretary to come on the stage to have one photograph. From all the states, we have with us Dr. Arvind Gupta, who is coming from Jaipur. We have with us Dr. Kedia, Dr. Kapoor, Dr. Sanjay Shah. I'm sorry if some of the names which I'm forgetting your name. Oh, Kedia bol diya maine. Dr. Goenka from Odisha, from Sanjeev Shah, so I'll be requesting only the chapter chair and chapter secretary to come on the stage. Dr. Kamlakar Tripathi from UP chapter, Dr. Ajay Tiwari, Dr. B.R. Singh. So all these state chapters, and yes, please, sir, please.
So I have to tell you a history of how Bansi got, and I pulled Bansi into RSSDI. Okay, it was in 2004 that there were elections. Right now also there are elections for RSSDI. And Bansi was contesting from West Zone. And I remember Dr. Ashok Das, if he's here, he will remember this, that it was Bangalore meeting, then organized by late Dr. Narsim Shetty, first time. And we wanted to start chapters. So actually Maharashtra had already got a chapter, and so had Delhi. And we inducted Bansi into RSSDI to form chapters of RSSDI across all the states. Okay, so that was our primary reason we co-opted him on RSSDI then. And this was in 2004.
Yes.
And that is the time he was caught with a specific objective to start chapters in 2004. I remember it because I moved a motion, and the motion was seconded by Dr. A.K. Das then, and it was accepted as a motion. And then, Bansi got into RSSDI, and you can see what history he has created. He has become, as Andrew said, he's like a master orchestra, and he's a master of everything, master of all ceremonies.
Requesting Dr. Andrew and Dr. Shashank Joshi to come up. Sir, please. No, they should join in front. No? So that everybody is there and they can have the
photo follow के बाद अपन आगे जाएंगे वैसा कर one photo later will join if everybody cannot
So please, Dr. Vinod Kumar. I'm sure Vinod Kumar is very happy to see that, more than 23 chapter chair and their secretary have come from all the way from different parts of the country, and they joined here for this grand celebration. We have few hundred people who are here, but thousands of the doctors who are seeing us live. We have more than 9,500 members. I will request our secretary, Dr. Sanjay Agarwal, to come up on the stage. You should be there, sir. And our president-elect, Dr. Makkar, is a very important person. Anuj is already there, is currently the chapter chair responsible for all the chapters. And then my photo. You are the key pivotal. Sir. Don't worry, sir. So felicitation is over. Yes, we will have Army Minister. But celebration continues. That is what the 50th year of Golden Jubilee celebration will continue for this complete year, for 1 year, throughout the year. and then we will be heading for our 75th year. So now I request Dr. Sanjay Agarwal for proposing vote of thanks, and then we can close the program. Yes, but before that, because he is going to have that, to felicitate us only. That was so you invite him. So, yes, Dr. Yusuf have come all the way from Telangana, and I will request Dr. Yusuf for a few words, and then we can start.
A very good afternoon to everyone. First of all, I will request the other Telangana state functionaries, Dr. Naval Chandra, Dr. JP Sai, Dr. Tirupati Rao, sir, please come on the stage, come on the dais, please. And Dr. Rakesh Sai, sir, very happy to have Professor Rakesh Sai, sir, and Dr. PV Rao, sir. I kindly request you to please come on the dais, sir. So there are so many stalwarts, so many seniors. My humble salutations to each and every stalwart, each and every senior present here in person and in spirit. We have already seen the founding fathers of RSSDI. And from the Telangana state RSSDI, we would like to felicitate the Golden Jubilee leaders, that is the three presidents, the immediate past president, Dr. Bansi Sabu sir, the president, Dr. Vasant Kumar sir, and the president-elect, Dr. Makkad sir. So the three are around a big round of applause for the three Golden Jubilee presidents, or the three Golden Jubilee leaders.
Some of you come that side, no? Piltra and side. So we'll hold it at this end. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Now I request Dr. Sanjay Agarwal for proposing vote of thanks. Over to Sanjay, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The meeting may have come to an end, but I think the journey begins and continues further. I think we're all privileged to be here today to celebrate the 50th year of RSSDI. What started as a humble beginning has grown into a movement, and today I think we recognize the RSSDI as one of the second largest organizations in the world, and hopefully in coming times we will become the largest organization of the world. And let's aim for that. I think that's where we should be going further, to become leaders of diabetes care in the entire world. We are very privileged to have had dignitaries today. May I give a thanks to honorable ministers in absentia, Mr. Mansukh Mandavia, as well as Dr. Jitendra Singh. Our dignitaries who came today to honor this occasion, Dr. Vinod Paul, Dr. Balram Bhargav, Dr. Randeep Guleria, and of course, Dr. Nikhil Tandon, who's been the entire effort, that he's made to host this program at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. He's done a lot of work. And I would be feeling my duty not to thank Dr. Bansi Sabu and Dr. Brij Makkar, who's really put in so much of efforts to make this program a big success. So both of you, I think, a round of applause for making this program a great success. I would also like to thank our patrons, past presidents, naming all of them, that they have been the soul of this body. They have been the guidance, and they have steered this body to great heights, set examples for us, and I'm sure all of us and the future leadership is going to ensure that this body continues to rise further. I'd like to thank all the past presidents who have come, from different parts of the country, and the state chapter chairs, secretaries, as well as all the members who are logged in online, as well as who are present in the audience over here, who have made this function a big success and something that we would really like to remember, the 50th momentous occasion of RSSDI. I think I'm privileged to be the secretary on the 50th year because I've had so much to see of what RSSDI remains. And I'm sure that, we will see a lot more activities happening for the future. Yeah. We were given a lot of, roadmaps for the future by the dignitaries. And I'm sure that these roadmaps are something that we are now going to follow future. We have already initiated some of them. We've had, of course, our village program, which has been taken up very actively. And I'm happy to say that we are partnering with Rotary to adopt 100 villages across the country. And I'm hoping that we'll make this a big success again, and we'll be able to adopt more and more villages in future. We're already partnering with various organizations for the research projects, and we look forward that we'll be able to grow this further. They mentioned about district coordinators, and we've already inducted almost about 800 district coordinators across the country, which are carrying the message of RSSDI to every nook and corner. And we have been already partnering with various knowledge sources to see that education becomes a major area, because we need to train our doctors. We need to see that we bring the best diabetes care to the tertiary level and even beyond that. And as regards the type 1, I think we've been driving that with passion, and thanks to Bansi for doing that. We've been ensuring partnering with various, insulin organizations to see that no child is deprived of insulin. So I think the messages are loud and clear. We need to do more, and we will keep doing more. We just need all of you to be involved. We need your assistance to see that this organization becomes a great organization for the future. So thank you once again, all of you. And we look forward that we'll have more and more momentous occasions. Let's put a roadmap for the next 50 years. We have got a host of activities that we have planned out for, and I'm sure all of you will be able to partner one way or the other to make all these, activities a big success. Thank you, and thank you once again for being here.
We will raise for the national anthem. Huh?
Yeah, so we're going to meet at 4 p.m. as Brit says for the consensus meeting. 4 p.m. Yeah, out here or at the Hyatt Hotel. And may I ask each one of you to rise for the national anthem? Are you going to play it from there?
Jai. Please join for the lunch.